The film opens in San Francisco, California, where a seemingly normal day is interrupted by a shockingly extraordinary spectacle: an anthropomorphic young hedgehog with blue fur, white gloves and red shoes is running through the city at breathtaking speed while a flying machine piloted by a mustached scientist dressed in a red flight suit gives chase and fires explosive energy blasts. In the middle of the chase, there is a pause as the hedgehog, named Sonic, begins to narrate what is currently happening and rewinds to the very beginning to inform the audience of how things got to this point. Recalling his childhood days living on a beautiful island in another world with palm trees, waterfalls, and even loop-de-loops made of soil. He remembers running joyously across the island every day, relishing in life and making full, open use of his natural-born powers despite being told to keep them secret by his doting guardian, Longclaw the owl. A then young Sonic rushes home to the treehouse where Longclaw is resting and playfully bumps into her to wake her up. Longclaw warns Sonic that he might have been noticed because of his coveted powers, but Sonic is not concerned, saying he was too fast to be seen. But as he affectionately presents a sunflower to her as a gift, a gesture that touches the owl, they are ambushed by a tribe of echidna warriors. Her fears realized, Longclaw desperately flies away with Sonic, only for one of the echidnas to fire his arrow and successfully strike her, causing her to plummet to the ground with Sonic still clinging to her. Though injured, Longclaw reminds Sonic of the importance of keeping himself and his powers hidden, as she knows that others would use them for their own purposes. She uses a golden ring to open a portal to a planet on the far side of the universe, called Earth, giving the rest of the rings to Sonic in a small bag and tells him to flee to Earth, where he will be safe. The reluctant Sonic runs through the portal while Longclaw stays behind to hold off the approaching echidnas. Seeing her in danger, Sonic desperately runs back to try to save her, but the portal disintegrates just before he can reach her, leaving him heartbroken, devastated, and alone. 10 years later, in March 2020, Sonic, now a teenager, has adjusted to life on Earth. Tom Wachowski, the local sheriff of Green Hills, Montana, is sitting bored in an empty speed trap, waiting for cars to speed by. Sonic playfully messes with him by zipping past his radar gun at ridiculous speeds, first at 296 miles per hour and then at 300 miles per hour. When Tom gets out to investigate, he discovers one of Sonic's blue quills lying near a small opening in the long grass. He takes the quill with him, but is then called away by his deputy, Wade Whipple, to address a minor issue back in town. Nearby, Sonic saves a turtle from being run over by an approaching car and takes it for a wild ride before leaving it and zipping back to a hidden cave, which he has turned into a makeshift home. Sonic seems to love his life. He enjoys playing with discarded items from the outside world to keep himself entertained. He feels safe knowing he can escape to one of the worlds depicted on a map included in a bag of rings, particularly an uninhabited world full of giant mushrooms. Although he hates the idea, he is not worried because Green Hills feels like home to him. Sonic frequents the town every day and secretly observes its residents. His favorites are Tom, whom he affectionately nicknames Donut Lord, for his tendency to talk to and eat donuts, and Tom's veterinarian wife, Maddie, whom he calls Pretzel Lady because of her yoga flexibility. There is, however, a person in town who has already discovered Sonic and refers to him as the Blue Devil. This person is Crazy Carl, an eccentric old man who tries to make the town aware of Sonic's existence. But no one believes him and they laugh at him. Carl attempts to trap Sonic with various elaborate devices to prove the hedgehog's existence. But Sonic always manages to avoid them and has fun causing Carl to get caught in his own traps. Having formed a strong bond with Tom and Maddie from afar, Sonic often hangs out around their house, especially on movie nights. Yet, despite his fun interactions and these so-called friends, Sonic still feels very lonely in his self-imposed isolation. He fears that he will spend the rest of his life alone. After coming home one night to find raccoons in his trash can, much to his annoyance, Tom receives from Maddie his long-awaited letter of acceptance into the San Francisco Police Department, and the two discuss the difficult decision to move away from Green Hills. Yet Tom is certain that the move is his chance to do more than simple odd jobs as sheriff of Green Hills and actually save lives. The next day, as Tom recites his departure speech to a donut, Sonic observes the local youth baseball playoffs and sees a young baseball batter high-five his teammates. That night, Sonic goes into the vacant baseball field and plays by himself, using his speed to assume the roles of all the players. He manages to make a perfect play and rejoices, holding his hand up for a high five. But when he looks around and sees that no one is there to cheer him on, he realizes he is truly alone forever. In his despair, he tries to work off the pain by running desperately around the field. But his sadness only turns to anger and frustration at his situation, his emotions building and causing electricity to emit from his body. Eventually, it becomes too much and he lets loose an anguished scream, the energy within him exploding outward into a massive electromagnetic pulse that knocks out power across the entire Pacific Northwest. Immediately after, Sonic becomes worried that he may have just revealed himself with his outburst and dashes off, hoping no one noticed. Meanwhile, much to the contrary, Wade is left to deal with several phone calls to Green Hills Police Station, as the town is completely in the dark. Concerned, he contacts Tom, who starts to give him instructions but ends the call prematurely when he sees the quill he discovered earlier glowing with an electric blue light. News of the event soon reaches the Pentagon, and Commander Walters of Defense enlists the help of brilliant roboticist and scientific genius named Dr. Robotnik to discover the cause. In spite of everyone disliking his egotistical and unorthodox nature, he is the best man for the job. After Robotnik and his partner, Agent Stone, take charge of the military detachment stationed at the baseball field, Robotnik's flying, high-tech, egg-shaped drones head into the forest, where one of them finds a footprint from Sonic and scans it. Robotnik discovers that his computer can't find a single match in Earth's animal kingdom to identify the creature responsible for the print, a fact that catches his interest. As the military troops and the drones search the forest for him, Sonic, realizing that he had just blown his cover, rushes back to his cave to collect his valuables and prepares to leave Earth forever. But just before he can use the rings to save himself, the troops and drones draw close to his cave and Sonic flees to avoid them, sentimentally bidding goodbye to his cave. Meanwhile, Tom is on the phone with Maddie, who has flown out to San Francisco to check out their future house, as well as to visit her sister Rachel, who dislikes Tom, and niece JoJo. As Tom tells Maddie about the blackout, he hears a disturbance and sees his trash can toppled over. Thinking the raccoons are back, Tom takes Maddie's tranquilizer gun, ends the call abruptly, which gives Rachel enough reason to suggest to Maddie that she should divorce him, and goes out to investigate the shed. The noise turns out to be Sonic, who broke into the shed so he would have a safe place to use one of his rings. As he prepares to do so, Tom bursts into the shed and sees him. Both of them scream in terror at the sight of each other, and Tom fires a dart into Sonic's leg. The weakening Sonic sees a picture of San Francisco's Transamerica Pyramid on Tom's t-shirt, and as he drops his ring, it opens a portal above the actual building itself. Collapsing to the floor, Sonic accidentally drops the bag of rings into the portal, and it lands on the building's roof. The portal thusly closes as Sonic passes out, leaving Tom severely confused at everything that just transpired. Shortly after, Tom brings Sonic inside and places him in a dog cage. He compares Sonic to the quill he found and realizes that Sonic is the Blue Devil, confirming that Crazy Carl was right. When Sonic awakens, he climbs out of the cage, and the two finally meet and have their first real conversation. Tom asks Sonic what he is and why he was hiding in his garage. Sonic explains that he needed to be somewhere safe and considered Tom the only person he could turn to, referring to him as Donut Lord. Tom then asks Sonic why he keeps calling him Donut Lord. Sonic responds that it's because of Tom's tendency to talk to and eat donuts. Just then, Robotnik's truck arrives, explaining that he is unable to simply run away because his legs are weak from the lingering tranquilizer, which is meant for bears. Sonic begs for Tom to protect him from the people coming after him, describing the situation as life or death. This wording is what convinces Tom to help, as he was initially unwilling to get involved with the matter. He hides Sonic in the attic as he goes out to meet Robotnik, who inconspicuously dispatches his drones to search the house while the two talk outside. Sonic hides from the drones and curls up into a ball to hide among the various sports balls stored in the attic, but when the drones get too close, Sonic, in a panicked state, flees the attic and causes a noise. Robotnik barges into the house to find only a raccoon eating a cake that Maddie had baked for Tom to celebrate his acceptance letter. As he turns to leave, however, he discovers the quill. When Robotnik threatens Tom to reveal where Sonic is, Sonic shows himself and begs Robotnik to spare Tom, eliciting a terrified scream from Robotnik. Seizing the opportunity, Tom punches Robotnik and knocks him out, and after a skirmish with one of Robotnik's drones that was used in threatening Tom, he and Sonic escape the house, driving away in Tom's truck. Stone arrives to check on Robotnik, who berates him for failing to stop them, states their objective of capturing Sonic for examination, and tells him to bring the quill. With Sonic and Tom now on the run, Tom asks Sonic to explain himself. Sonic informs him of the purpose of his lost rings. Advanced cultures use rings to travel to different worlds, and adds that therefore, he needs to get to San Francisco so he can get them back and escape to the Mushroom Planet. The story proves too bizarre for Tom to believe, so he pulls over and tells Sonic to go there by himself, explaining that this is a bad time for him to end up in trouble and citing that he has accomplished what Sonic asked him to do, save his life. However, Sonic does not know where San Francisco is, and following Tom's directions to simply head west only causes him to crash straight into the Pacific Ocean and run back to Tom wet, cold, covered in seaweed, and wearing a fish on his head. Sonic blames Tom for his fate because of the fact that he was responsible for making him lose his rings in the first place and insists he can't accomplish his goal alone. Reluctantly, Tom agrees to take Sonic with him to San Francisco. As the two begin their travels, Sonic treats the journey as a fun road trip. He admires the attractions along the way, such as the world's largest rubber ball, barely paying any mind to Tom admonishing him for not taking the trouble they are both in seriously. That night they stop in a certain section of town, and Tom tells Sonic to stay in the truck as he uses a nearby payphone to call Wade, who reveals that Robotnik and his agents are searching for Tom and are with him in the station. Robotnik takes the phone and warns Tom that he is coming for him, stating how furious he is with the sheriff for punching him in the face due to it being a remainder of a similar situation regarding a bully in his childhood that he had solved through technology. Afterwards, he leaves with the agents, with Wade warning him that he will inform people about this incident. Meanwhile, Sonic tries desperately to control his excitement over an extremely entertaining-looking biker bar, but eventually caves in. Tom comes back to his truck with a purchased meal, only to find Sonic missing. He finds Sonic in the piston pit across the street and orders him out, but Sonic, who has disguised himself to blend in, persuades him to stay and have fun with him. Sonic compiles a bucket list of the things he would like to do on Earth, but becomes sad when he realizes he might not be able to do them since he has to leave Earth soon. But Tom encourages Sonic to try to do as much as he can right where they are, and the two take a while to enjoy themselves with all the bar's activities, with Sonic steadily crossing off items on the list as they go. Unfortunately, a group of rough-looking punks come looking for trouble and Sonic aggravates their leader, starting a bar fight. The leader of the punks attacks Sonic, but Sonic speeds up his awareness and runs around the bar, saving Tom from attackers and setting up sassy pranks and traps to end the fight, all in the span of the single moment before the punk leader can reach him. The fight is ended abruptly by Sonic's devices and the punk leader crashes through the window wearing a wall-mounted bear head. Sonic and Tom flee the bar, outrunning the angry patrons. The two then spend the night in a local motel, and after Sonic runs around the room enjoying himself with various activities, Tom asks him about this other planet to which he must go when he leaves Earth. Sonic reveals that it is a very unenviable place and wonders aloud about whether Longclaw might have been wrong. Pondering the possibility of having a life on Earth, he falls asleep not long after. As Tom tucks him in, he sees that one of the remaining items on Sonic's bucket list is to make a real friend. At that moment, he hears a news report that features a warning about him, as he has been declared a domestic terrorist because of his actions in protecting Sonic from Robotnik and the military. The next morning, Robotnik and Stone have arrived at the piston pit, which is under repairs from the bar fight, to interrogate the bar patrons, including the injured punk leader, who gets thrown through the same window as last night for being stubborn about giving up information. They learn that Sonic and Tom are heading to San Francisco. Robotnik triangulates their location and gives chase. On the road, Sonic asks Tom about what he would have on his own bucket list. Tom reveals his intentions to leave Green Hills to become a San Francisco street cop and prove himself as a hero. But Sonic is baffled and angered by the fact that Tom would want to leave behind such a perfect town and all the people he cares about. He argues that unlike himself, Tom has no villains chasing him, as well as pointing out that the citizens of Green Hills depend on him to help them with their problems when Tom responds by saying they could call anyone else for help. Simultaneously, Robotnik finds them and sends out a large six-wheeled badnik to attack them. A battle on the road ensues and Sonic and Tom work together to destroy the machine, despite Sonic's disdain for Tom's ambitions occasionally showing, in particular, one moment at the beginning of the fight where Sonic's electrical powers kick in again as he continues to emotionally call Tom out for choosing to leave his perfect hometown in spite of the danger they are in, drawing a parallel between it to his own experience of being forced to leave his home. Said powers are used to their advantage against the machine via a subsequent, and involuntary, supercharged spin attack from Sonic, but a pattern emerges where every time the two think they have defeated the machine, Robotnik activates another, smaller phase to continue the chase. The second to last phase of the machine involves it becoming a small drone and shearing the hood off of Tom's truck with a laser beam. After they deal with this phase, the machine is reduced to a sticky bomb that attaches itself to Sonic's hand, and they pull off the road to get rid of it. But just when Sonic manages to transfer it to a rock and starts to walk away to HIGH5 Tom, it explodes with Sonic still close by. As the smoke clears, Tom finds Sonic lying unconscious on the ground and runs over to him, attempting to get him to wake up. Robotnik is enraged that they survived and berates Stone for noting their persistence. At that moment, however, Robotnik finds that the quill in Stone's pocket is glowing with blue, electric light and is intrigued. Finally reaching San Francisco, Tom rushes to the house where Maddie is staying with Rachel and JoJo as he carries the still unconscious Sonic, who he had wrapped in a towel to conceal him. He is greeted by an irate Rachel, who has seen the news reports on him and refuses to let him in until Maddie intervenes. JoJo and the Wachowskis' dog, Ozzy, Maddie had taken him with her on her trip, come to greet him, and as Rachel and Maddie argue about Tom, Ozzy pulls away the towel, revealing Sonic. Rachel faints at the sight, and Maddie and JoJo just stare. Meanwhile, Robotnik analyzes the quill and the energy it contains. As he waits, he amuses himself by dancing to a tune until he is startled half to death by the sudden, and completely unexpected, appearance of Stone, who has come to offer a latte. At that moment, the machine finishes analyzing the quill, revealing it to contain unlimited energy that Robotnik believes can enable his prototype flying craft, the Eggpod, to reach its full potential. Tom and Maddie tend to the injured Sonic, while an annoyed Rachel sits bound in a chair to prevent her from interfering. Tom's reason for bringing Sonic here was to have Maddie check on him and figure out what is wrong with him using her experience as a veterinarian. But Maddie insists she only knows how to work with Earth animals. Sonic's alien biology is beyond her understanding. Instead, she uses smelling salts from a human first aid kit to awaken Sonic, who zips around the room at breathtaking speed before frantically coming to grips with his surroundings and enthusiastically greeting Pretzel Lady, pulling Tom into another room. A terrified Maddie asks him who and what Sonic is, and Tom asks her if she remembers what Crazy Carl always says, causing Maddie to realize that the Blue Devil is real. Tom explains that he accidentally shot Sonic with Maddie's tranquilizer gun, to her annoyance, and that he has to help Sonic get to the Transamerica Pyramid. Maddie ultimately accepts her husband's situation without much issue, recalling his desire to help people in danger and reasoning that blue alien hedgehogs still count as people. Simultaneously, JoJo returns from a short trip upstairs to bring Sonic a new pair of bright red shoes so that his feet will no longer hurt when he runs. Having noticed while he was unconscious that his old shoes were well worn out and had holes down to the socks from all of his running, he takes an instant liking to the new shoes. Especially since no one had ever given him a gift before, which is something else for him to check off the bucket list, and immediately puts them on. Sonic also meets Ozzy, of whom he is jealous. Tom had referred to the dog as his best animal friend, in the conversation that took place just before their fight on the road with Robotnik's machine. Much to Sonic's chagrin, but from whom he enjoys an affectionate face-licking. Deciding that they can no longer use Tom's damaged truck as it would draw attention to them, Tom and Maddie borrow the indignant Rachel's car and head with Sonic, who drives Rachel's car with disastrous results, to the Transamerica Pyramid, where Tom uses the false pretense of saving a jumper to gain the needed clearance to travel to the roof. Tom and Maddie carry Sonic inside a bag, eliciting grave concern from onlookers who believe that the pair are carrying an abducted child. They finally reach the roof, where Sonic at last finds and retrieves his bag of rings. Sonic briefly explains how the rings work. The user has to think of the desired destination as they throw one. He takes the opportunity to apologize to Tom for harshly and hastily judging the sheriff's decision to leave Green Hills, having realized that it was a difficult choice, and states that while he does not want to leave Earth, he will only put others in danger by staying. Sonic and Tom each admit they will miss the other, and Sonic expresses his gratitude for the good times they had over the past 2 days. He also thanks Tom for saving his life. Sonic attempts to throw a ring to open the portal to the Mushroom Planet, but it ends up uselessly bouncing off of one of Robotnik's drones. Many more drones surround them as Robotnik himself appears in his egg pod, now containing Sonic's quill, to meet them. After a brief exchange between Tom and Robotnik, Sonic taunts Robotnik by calling him Eggman after his egg-shaped drones. Robotnik readies his drones to blow them away, but in an impromptu plan to protect Tom and Maddie since they do not possess superspeed and are thus vulnerable to Robotnik's coming onslaught, Sonic pushes them off the top of the building, briefly showing shock at what just happened, but refusing to fully acknowledge said shock. Robotnik has his drones fire missiles and bullets at Sonic, who speeds up his awareness just before they make contact and casually pushes the ones in front of him aside. Then repeatedly grabs more missiles out of the air and either redirects them back into several of the drones or plays around with them, all in the span of milliseconds. But in the middle of this, Robotnik still has enough time to press a button that charges the eggpod with energy from the quill, allowing it, and by extension, himself, to move and react just as fast. He fires a blast at Sonic that he only narrowly avoids, the shockwave knocking him out of bullet time and into momentary delirium, quickly recovering from this to find Tom and Maddie still falling. He grabs one of the rings falling with him by using one of his quills as a reach extender and throws it, opening a portal beneath them that transports them back to Green Hills. Tom and Maddie end up landing safely in a pile of hay within a farmer's barn, while back in San Francisco, Sonic lands in a tree before crashing to the ground, along with the rest of the rings and Robotnik's destroyed drones. Meanwhile, the owner of the barn greets Tom and Maddie, asking for their help in aiding a cow's effort to give birth. Robotnik confronts Sonic and taunts him, but Sonic gathers up his spilled rings and runs through the city as Robotnik gives chase in the eggpod, as seen at the beginning of the film. Narrating again, Sonic notes how this has brought the story full circle and earnestly continues from where he left off, wanting to know what happens next just as much as the audience. As Robotnik continues his pursuit, Sonic is shocked by his ability to keep up with him, as no one has ever done that before. Sonic opens a portal to Paris, with him and Robotnik disrupting a mime act being performed for a young girl as they rush past. His next ring portal brings him and the Doctor to China, where the latter chases Sonic along the Great Wall of China. Next, Sonic opens a portal to Egypt, where Robotnik destroys many centuries-old monuments in his zeal to catch Sonic. Sonic uses his speed to create a sand twister that temporarily disrupts Robotnik's visual contact, but Robotnik sees Sonic running up the side of one of the Great Pyramids and follows him to the top, firing a blast just as Sonic manages to open another portal ring. The portal brings Sonic back to Green Hills, now at night, but the blast sends him hurtling through the ring and into the street, leaving him barely able to move from a combination of the chase and his injuries. Robotnik's eggpod slowly emerges through the portal, and the terrified onlookers flee as Tom and Maddie arrive on the scene. As Sonic collapses to the ground entirely, Robotnik prepares to finish him off. But Tom uses one of Sonic's rings to get behind him and engage him in physical combat inside the open cockpit of his vehicle, landing multiple punches on him in order to throw off his focus and protect Sonic. Unfortunately, Tom is ultimately hurled out of the cockpit, leaving Robotnik to question why the winded sheriff would be willing to throw his life away for a silly little alien. His attention now focused on Tom, he once again prepares to strike, but is thrown off a second time by a near-miss gunshot from Wade. Joined by a chainsaw-wielding Crazy Carl, who is all too willing to point out to everyone that this is concrete proof of the Blue Devil being a real creature and not a figment of his imagination. And some of the local townspeople in defending Sonic and Tom. However, Maddie draws Tom's attention back to Sonic. He remains motionless and silent, appearing to everyone as if he had lost his life. Robotnik insensitively requests putting Sonic's body on ice to keep it fresh and callously remarks that he was just an alien who did not belong here. With restrained anger, Tom responds by telling him that Sonic knew more about being human than he ever will, proclaiming him to have been his friend. Shortly after the statement, Sonic, who had only been dazed by Robotnik's attack, opens his eyes and gets to his feet. His body supercharged with electric energy, some of which he siphons from the quill powering the egg pod, returning it to its normal speed. Tom, Maddie, and the townspeople step back, allowing Sonic to handle things and take care of Robotnik. Fueled by passion, Sonic boldly proclaims to Robotnik that he will no longer use the power which is rightfully his to run away, but will use it to protect his friends. Robotnik pulls down his goggles and the two opponents become locked in a standoff, preparing to meet in full-on battle. Robotnik makes the first move by firing his missiles, but Sonic avoids them and bounces off the buildings to strike Robotnik's egg pod with an increasingly rapid barrage of body slams. With the vehicle severely damaged, but still afloat, Sonic declares that he is not the one leaving Earth and calls for Tom, who throws a ring behind Robotnik that creates a portal to the Mushroom Planet. Then, at last, Sonic dashes straight at Robotnik's vehicle and strikes it with a final spin attack that exerts enough force to send it flying backwards through the portal just as it closes, stranding a screaming Robotnik on another world so that he can never hurt anyone again. With the fight over, the electricity arcing from Sonic's body fades, and he returns to his normal state as the townspeople cheer for him. Sonic and Tom reunite and congratulate each other on getting rid of Robotnik together, and Tom returns Sonic's rings, though not before telling him not to push people off buildings anymore, which Sonic can't promise, as well as giving Sonic the high five he had wanted since the baseball game, much to the latter's sheer delight. Maddie, however, is horrified to realize they left Rachel tied to the chair in San Francisco and states they can never go back. Tom is fine with that, telling Maddie that he has decided not to leave Green Hills anyway, since he has already saved a life. As Wade disperses the crowd of townspeople, Sonic follows Tom and Maddie. The next day, as Tom and Maddie are repairing and repainting their house from the damage caused by Robotnik's drone, Commander Walters comes to thank Tom for not speaking publicly about the events of the past few days and to inform him that his guilt has been erased. He also denies that Robotnik ever existed when Tom brings him up, which the sheriff wishes aloud was true. As a bonus, the official presents Tom with an Olive Garden gift card, then asks if Sonic might be willing to talk to the president. But Tom falsely claims that Sonic has left so as to spare him that and politely bid him goodbye as they close their door in front of Walter's, who tries peeking inside their house all the while in a last-ditch effort to see if he is lying. After Walters leaves, Sonic comes out of hiding and asks if they would like to watch a movie. But Maddie tells him that it is time to go back to his cave. Disappointed and annoyed, Sonic heads for the front door, assuming they meant his old cave. But they imply to him that they meant something else. Tom and Maddie open the attic door so that Sonic can look inside. He is astonished to find that the attic has been turned into a room for him that contains all of his belongings from the old cave. Overcome with joy, Sonic runs around and relishes in having his things back. Tom and Maddie sit with Sonic on his race car bed and welcome him home, and Sonic gives them his heartfelt thanks. As the view zooms out and away from the house, Ozzy comes to lick Sonic again, with Sonic still jealous but enjoying the licking. Nearly 3 months later on the Mushroom Planet, Robotnik has completely lost his sanity, despite his belief that he has never done so. As he finishes shaving himself totally bald with a piece of metal from his destroyed egg pod, he gazes at his reflection in a pool of water, now with an extremely long, grown-out mustache that looks completely zany. Talking to a rock that he has carved to resemble Agent Stone, he throws it and tells it to perform rock reconnaissance for him. He reflects on his situation and remarks that a lesser man would die in such a place. But then, he holds up a small container with Sonic's quill inside it, proclaiming that he will be home by Christmas, then continues to explore and toss the stone rock around, laughing maniacally. A mid-credits scene shows forested hills in an area near Green Hills within 5 more months. There, the leaves stir as a ring portal opens. From it emerges an anthropomorphic two-tailed fox who uses a small handheld device to determine from the present levels of energy whether Sonic might be near. Finding the readings to be sufficient, Tails hopes aloud that he is not too late in finding him and uses his twin tails like helicopter blades to take off flying into the vast forest towards Green Hills. In November 2020, 8 months after the first film, on the Mushroom Planet, dawn breaks. As a mushroom rises up in the sunshine, it sets off a mushroom-based, Rube Goldberg-esque mechanism that ends with a mushroom figurine of Sonic, along with other mushrooms, getting squeezed of their juices, which pour into a mushroom cup. Dr. Eggman Robotnik then shows up, picking up the cup as he documents his log of how he has been marooned on this planet for 243 days, which is about 8 months, because of Sonic, who defeated and banished him to that planet at the end of the first film. But he has managed to survive because of a breathable atmosphere and his own intellect, though his efforts to get something tasty from the mushrooms and fungi have all met with repeated, dismal, disgusting failure. Despite this, Robotnik sees a reason to be optimistic, as he has formulated a plan to get back to Earth and get revenge on Sonic. Having salvaged components from his egg pod, Robotnik has constructed a beacon. He makes his final preparations, getting ready to hook Sonic's chaos energy-infused quill up to his masterpiece and see who will come to investigate his signal. However, the moment Robotnik connects the quill, an energy pulse flings him from the beacon and knocks him out, with the pulse extending far into space. After nightfall, Robotnik remains unconscious as a ring portal appears, with a trio of alien scavengers stepping out of it and slowly approaching him. As one of them reaches for the quill in Robotnik's hand to take it from him, Robotnik comes to, proceeding to activate different traps that he has set up and easily dispatching the scavengers. With the opposition gone, Robotnik runs toward the ring portal, only for him to come to a halt as he sees an anthropomorphic red echidna appear from the other side. As he approaches Robotnik, he aggressively asks where he acquired Sonic's quill, to which Robotnik explains that he got it from Sonic on Earth and that he will be happy to show him the way. On Earth, in Seattle, the peacefulness of an average night in the city is disrupted when some bank robbers in a hijacked armored truck come driving through the streets with the police hot on their tail. As the bank robbers throw pipe bombs at the police, Sonic is shown standing on a building as he makes some preparations before going after the truck. Jumping into the truck, Sonic knocks out one of the robbers and pushes the other out of the truck before taking the wheel himself. Sonic proceeds to drive recklessly, causing the robbers in the back of the truck to drop their pipe bombs on the streets as they get knocked out. He also ungags a male captive on board the truck, the security guard assigned to guard the money, who asks who Sonic is. Sonic tries introducing himself as a superhero, but loses focus as he drives. To make matters worse, Sonic's driving sets off the remainder of the robbers' pipe bombs. The captive questions why Sonic is not slowing down, to which Sonic reveals that he cannot reach the brakes, which are blocked by an unconscious robber. Regardless, Sonic insists that heroes can handle this without the police, and so throws the pipe bombs into a garbage truck that they pass by, which blows it up and scatters its trash. However, the captive can still hear an ignited bomb. As Sonic looks for the bomb while not looking at the road, the captive criticizes his performance, then notices that the bomb is stuck in Sonic's back quills. Grabbing it, Sonic throws the bomb into a storm drain on the side of the road. Not long after, Sonic notices that the truck is heading for a public ice cream stand. Spotting some power tools in the truck, Sonic uses them to take it apart at super speed, leaving only its undercarriage to slide to a halt right in front of the ice cream stand, much to the shock of a young boy standing in its path. As the people recover from their stupor, the pipe bomb Sonic threw in the storm drain goes off, resulting in several waterspouts emerging from the manholes. Meanwhile, the robbers recover as the Seattle Police Department appears to apprehend them. Standing on top of a building, Sonic declares loudly that no thanks are needed for blue justice. While the captive calls him a terrible hero, Sonic does not mind as he runs away through the destruction he has caused. Running back to Green Hills, Montana, Sonic greets Wade Whipple at the speed trap behind the welcome billboard before hurrying up to a mountaintop and greeting Green Hills from afar. He then runs back to the Wachowski house and sneaks into his room, only to notice that he got some dirty banknotes stuck to his shoes after the events in Seattle. As he puts them away in a drawer to avoid raising suspicion, Sonic takes a look at the map of safe worlds that Longclaw gave him, with a feather from Longclaw falling out of it. Reminiscing on Longclaw, Sonic tells her that he misses her and that he is trying to make her proud. Putting the map and feather away in his pouch, Sonic attempts to get some sleep. But then Ozzy and Maddie come in, with Maddie reminding him that he is supposed to meet Tom. With Ozzy forcing him out of bed, Sonic has no other choice but to get up. Later, Sonic and Tom are out fishing on a lake. As Tom tries to have a nice conversation with Sonic, he notices that the hedgehog has fallen asleep while Tom wasn't paying attention. Soon after, Sonic falls into the water as the boat tilts and gravity does the rest. With Sonic unable to swim, Tom pulls him back into the boat. As he helps Sonic dry off and warm up, however, he points out that he discovered Sonic's absence last night by coming into his room and discovering his attempt to fake his presence with a shoddy dummy and a taped recording. Tom then shows Sonic a newspaper documenting the mayhem he created in Seattle and asks him how many times they are going to have this discussion about the Hedgehog lying, sneaking out, and trying to be a superhero. Tom calls him out for being irresponsible and reckless, but Sonic insists that the city was already a mess and that he was a hero back there. Tom, however, remarks that heroes do not put others in danger with their actions, to which Sonic asks Tom to be his friend and not his dad. He tries to insist that he can take care of himself, but Tom tells him that being a hero is about taking responsibility for other people and that he still has some growing up to do before he can be the hero he wants to be. He also adds that a moment will come where his powers are needed, but the moment will choose him, not the other way around. Sonic is surprised by Tom's insight, and Tom explains it is a Wachowski family special that he got in the lake they are on from his father, who always tried to steer him in the right direction. The same thing he and Maddie are trying to do with him. This convinces Sonic to agree to being more responsible until his moment arrives. The two then high-five, and Sonic celebrates by using his speed to push their boat across the lake at high speed, much to Tom's dismay. Later, back in the Wachowski house, Tom and Maddie are preparing to head to Hawaii for Rachel's wedding. As they enter their living room, they find Sonic and Ozzy playing the roles of flight attendants in front of a ring portal leading to the couple's destination. After giving Tom and Maddie their send-off, Tom asks for a hug. But Sonic declines, seeing as he is going to be home alone for the first time and is therefore too mature for it. At Maddie's suggestion, they power bump instead. Sonic then gives Tom a ring that they can use to go home with, and the couple bids Sonic goodbye as the portal closes. Once they are gone, though, Sonic is determined to have fun with Ozzy for the next 2 days while he has the opportunity. Sonic proceeds to party it up, leaving the house in a mess along the way. Meanwhile, somewhere far away at a cliffside, Tails appears from a ring portal. Consulting his Miles Electric, Tails proclaims that he has found him through the device's readings and hurries out to find that person before it is too late, taking flight with his twin Tails as he heads towards Green Hills. As night falls on Green Hills, Tails arrives in town and decides to use a car to get around without being spotted, choosing Wade's police cruiser for the job. Meanwhile, Sonic is chilling when he notices that Tom is calling him on his phone via FaceTime. Cleaning up the house in a flash to avoid raising suspicion, Sonic answers Tom's call. While Sonic acts casual, Tom knows Sonic is up to something. Regardless, Sonic convinces him to just relax and enjoy his vacation, with Tom assured that Sonic is fast enough to clean up his mess in good time. Sonic agrees, but corrects himself and acts offended at the accusation. After then having a brief chat about Rachel's fiancé, Randall, Tom decides to introduce himself and hangs up on Sonic after encouraging him to stay out of trouble. When Tom tries to greet Randall, however, he tells him with hostility that he should tear him apart for what he did to Rachel back in San Francisco. However, Randall quickly drops the facade and tells a relieved Tom that he is just kidding. The two proceed to talk about how Rachel is not fond of Tom, with Randall encouraging Tom to work things out with her. Rachel and Maddie come over, with Rachel seemingly happy about Tom's presence and insisting that they bury the hatchet. As they hug it out, however, Rachel quietly tells Tom that she will end him if he screws up her wedding, showing that she is still somewhat cross over the events in San Francisco and leaving Tom dreading what's to come if he gets on Rachel's bad side here. Back in the Wachowski house, Sonic is watching TV with Ozzy when a blackout suddenly hits. Although thrilled at first, Sonic notices something is wrong when the TV turns on by itself and the lights start to flicker, making him uneasy. As he nervously heads for the front door to investigate, the doorknob gets cut off, leaving the door to open and reveal Robotnik. Sonic is initially shocked by this development, but steels himself and tells Robotnik that while he is not sure how he returned, he still made a mistake coming here. Robotnik, however, retorts back and threatens to have his revenge on him and the Wachowskis, Ozzy included. Enraged by these declarations, Sonic jumps at Robotnik, intent on hitting him with a chaos energy-charged punch, only for the Doctor to playfully step aside and reveal the same echidna from the beginning, who punches Sonic through a wall in the TV. As Robotnik introduces the echidna as Knuckles, who is a powerful warrior who is the last of his tribe. Sonic picks up his ring pouch and tries charging at Knuckles, only to get punched through another wall and into the backyard by the echidna, who demands to know where it is. Taking it as a challenge, Sonic charges at Knuckles again with a spin attack, only for Knuckles, who has deemed the Hedgehog an inexperienced and unworthy foe, to stop it with one hand and knock Sonic down. As he pins Sonic against a tree, Knuckles proclaims his intended destiny to restore the ultimate power to the home of his people, while Sonic insists that he has no idea of what he is talking about. Robotnik, who has been watching the fight from the sidelines, takes an interest in Knuckles' mention of ultimate power. After labeling Sonic an apprentice of Longclaw, Knuckles proceeds to elaborate that her people and his people, the Echidnas, were sworn enemies, and that he will now kill Sonic for being an associate of the opposing side. Suddenly, though, Tails appears in Wade's police cruiser, with the emergency lights blazing, which he rams Knuckles with, much to Robotnik's surprise and confusion. With Tails saying he is on his side and Knuckles recovering, Sonic jumps into Tails' car, which Tails uses his gadgets to drive. After shaking off Robotnik when he jumps onto the hood, the two drive away, with Knuckles hot on their heels. After an amazed Tails has introduced himself, Sonic demands an explanation for everything. Tails proceeds to tell him about Knuckles, who is the last of the Echidnas and the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy and obsessed with finding the Master Emerald. Sonic dismisses the Emerald as a bedtime story, but Tails tells him that Knuckles believes otherwise and that Sonic is the key to its discovery. As Sonic takes the wheel, Knuckles quickly catches up to them and begins tearing the car apart. Tails, however, has them drive over a cliff. To Sonic's surprise, Tails is able to haul them to safety by using his twin tails as helicopter blades. Meanwhile, Knuckles manages to get off the car and latch onto the cliff, leaving the car to explode when it hits the ground below, totally demolished. As Sonic and Tails fly away, Robotnik catches up in a riding mower and watches. In order to proceed with his plans, Robotnik uses his Robotnik control glove to call Agent Stone, who has become the owner of the Mean Bean Coffee Cafe in Green Hills after Robotnik's disappearance. As a sad Stone wonders where Robotnik is, he gets his message on his smartwatch. Closing the cafe and making it look like it failed a health inspection to avoid prying eyes, Stone uses the shop's advanced systems to send a pod located in orbit to Robotnik, all while joyfully proclaiming his boss's return. Following his POD's arrival, Robotnik arms himself with new clothes, a tune-up, equipment, and badniks. Meanwhile, Knuckles is climbing up the cliff until Robotnik intrudes from above, asking him about the Master Emerald. Knuckles insists that it does not concern him and that their deal is over now that he has gotten him off the Mushroom Planet. In response, Robotnik helps Knuckles back up with his badniks and insists that he needs him to navigate Earth. Furthermore, Robotnik offers to help him find the Master Emerald, which Knuckles can then use to destroy Sonic. With Knuckles seeing that Robotnik is suggesting an alliance, the two shake hands on the deal. With Knuckles crushing Robotnik's hand due to his own brute strength. With Knuckles convinced of his commitment, Robotnik calls in his egg mobile from the pod, and the two use it to set off. Meanwhile, Sonic and Tails have gone to Wade for help, but keep the fate of his cruiser a secret. As they get acquainted with Wade's garage, Sonic and Tails try to figure out why Knuckles thinks Sonic is the key to finding the Master Emerald. When Tails hypothesizes a connection, Sonic recalls that Longclaw's map has the image of an emerald on it, which he was previously unable to figure out. After Sonic pulls the map from his pouch, it starts to glow. He drops it, and a magical projection of Longclaw appears to deliver a message to Sonic, saying that it was made in case something happened to her. She also reveals that Earth was chosen as Sonic's new home planet for a reason, as it is the secret hiding place of the Master Emerald. An ancient emerald that can grant its user the power to turn thoughts into reality and threaten all life in the universe, should it fall into the wrong hands. She passes her duty of watching the emerald over to Sonic, who sees this as his moment. Longclaw then tells Sonic to follow the map to the emerald and keep it safe before ending her message with her recognition of Sonic's special heart and a loving goodbye, leaving Sonic both saddened and determined not to let her down. Following an awkward remark from Wade in which he believes Longclaw is Tails' dad, Sonic sees that the map has changed to show that there is a compass in Siberia that will lead to the Master Emerald. Tails then adds that with Knuckles also on planet, it will be a race for the emerald. After another goofy remark from Wade about having known a kid named Knuckles from middle school, and worrying if he and the Knuckles Sonic and Tails are dealing with are the same person, Sonic voices his certainty that despite these odds, he and Tails will find the compass first, opening a ring portal to Siberia. Tails, however, is hesitant to come along, insisting that he only came to Earth to warn Sonic and is not a field guy. Sonic, however, convinces Tails to come along by promising to protect him, a promise of which they seal with a power bump. Back in the Mean Bean Coffee Cafe, Stone, now wearing his suit from his original service to Robotnik, has prepared a latte for his boss, who soon after arrives in the cafe. While Stone is surprised by Robotnik's different appearance, he nonetheless expresses his loyalty with Robotnik's favorite latte. Tasting it, Robotnik notes that it could use some mushroom, referencing his dismal attempts with the fungi back on the mushroom planet. Knuckles arrives and takes offense to Stone when he calls him a porcupine. Regardless, Stone welcomes him upon hearing of his pride in his heritage and his resolve to fulfill his goal, which they mark with a handshake that crushes Stone's hand. Robotnik decides that they should renovate the cafe, and Stone transforms it into their high-tech headquarters with a simple code phrase, which is Robotnik's aforementioned favorite latte. On Hawaii, Tom is having a rough volleyball match against Randall and his team. Despite this, the two of them remain on good terms. As they get talking, Randall notes that his team is more than that. They are his lifelong squad. Afterward, the two of them promise to hang out some more with extreme activities, although Tom regrets it after he leaves. He then meets JoJo and Maddie, with JoJo revealing her duty as ring-bearer for Rachel's wedding. At first, it seems that JoJo has lost one of the rings. But Tom soon reveals that he is just playing with her by giving her back the lost wedding ring. As Tom and Maddie get reacquainted, Tom looks at Randall's team and wishes that Sonic had friends like that. Maddie, however, tells him to relax and not worry about Sonic, sure that he will find his way. Meanwhile, in Siberia, Sonic and Tails are caught in a snowstorm, with Sonic ranting about how they cannot find their way. Unable to get a reading on the compass in this storm, Tails suggests turning back. Sonic, however, spots a public restaurant nearby and says that they should take shelter in there. Tails is worried, but Sonic assures him that humans are very welcoming. Putting on some disguises made from winter clothing near the door, Sonic and Tails enter the restaurant, only to get an icy and threatening reception from the patrons. After getting a table and ordering a pair of beef stews using the translator on his Miles Electric, Sonic inquires Tails about his gadgets. Tails reveals that he made them himself and remarks that he found Sonic thanks to them. He proceeds to explain that he first detected Sonic due to the energy blast that occurred when Sonic had his emotional breakdown on Green Hill's baseball field reaching his home planet. Taking interest, he later saw Sonic save the town from Robotnik, much to his amazement. With Sonic equally amazed by how much Tails knows about him. The fox reveals that when he learned that Knuckles was after Sonic, he had to do something and left to warn him. Immediately after, Sonic gets a text message from Tom, prompting Sonic to write one back. Back in Green Hills, Robotnik and Stone have intercepted Sonic and Tom's text messages. As Knuckles displays his limited understanding of technology, Stone quietly asks Robotnik why they are working with an imbecile like him. Robotnik explains that the emerald he seeks can power his wildest designs and both get his genius recognized across the galaxy and let him command unimaginable power. Reading further into Sonic's lie of enjoying the night at home, Knuckles believes Sonic has returned there. Robotnik corrects him, though, having pinpointed his location in Siberia with his technology. After fiddling with a hologram of Sonic, Robotnik and Knuckles head out. Knuckles, however, asks what to do about Stone, to which Robotnik insists that they ditch him for now. Knuckles is not pleased with this decision, labeling it a dishonor, but Robotnik notes that it is how he rolls. In Siberia, Sonic and Tails receive the wrong dishes. Tails attempts to explain the mix-up to the waitress, but his translator malfunctions, turning his question into an insult. Sonic tries to calm down the angry patrons, but again, Tails' translator misinterprets his words, making it sound offensive. This prompts the patrons to reveal their disguises, branding Sonic and Tails as monsters. The patrons grab Sonic and Tails, preparing to throw them into the fireplace. Just as they are about to meet a fiery fate, Tails finds a reference to a Siberian custom on his Miles Electric and shouts, "Pivanka," which surprises the crowd. Soon after, all eyes turn to a single man in the restaurant who accepts the Pivanka challenge. When Sonic asks what Pivanka means, Tails explains that it is a Siberian tradition for settling disputes. If they win, they are let go, but if they lose, they will be thrown into the fire. As the crowd makes room for the challenge, Sonic suggests they should grab the map and leave. However, Tails realizes he left the map on the table, which the waitress has put away. The Pivanka challenger steps forward and begins to dance to the local music, making Sonic realize that Pivanka is a dance-off. Sonic and Tails attempt to dance to get the map, but they struggle with the rhythm. Meanwhile, the map gets stuck to the Pivanka challenger's shoe. Sonic tries to retrieve it, but the challenger grabs it first and challenges Sonic to come and take it. As the situation escalates, Tails starts to lose his confidence, especially as the crowd begins to call them freaks. Despite this, Sonic remains undaunted and insists that he needs Tails' help. However, Tails is too anxious. feeling out of place and knowing that the situation is his fault. Then, Sonic comes up with an idea. He connects his phone to the speakers and has them dance to their own music in their unique style, which is much more successful. Additionally, by using Tails' Miles Electric to create holograms of themselves, Sonic and Tails manage to outdance the Pivanka challenger and reclaim the map. The impressed patrons then cheer for them, lifting them into the air and celebrating their victory. In the aftermath, Sonic and Tails are resting, with Tails expressing amazement at Sonic's ability to win the Pivanka. Sonic then tells Tails, as his friend, to stick with him if he wants to know more about Earth. Surprised, Tails asks Sonic if he really means that he is his friend, which Sonic insists, forming a happy smile on Tails' face. Before he leapt up and hugged Sonic, Tails then explains that he never had any friends growing up because people in his village thought his fluffy twin tails were weird. However, he noticed that Sonic became a legend despite being weird himself and was both inspired by him and spurred to help him because of that. With Sonic relating to Tails' past, he tells the fox that he is happy to have him around, a sentiment Tails agrees with. Getting tired, Tails falls asleep next to the fireplace while Sonic's back is turned, tucking Tails in, before laying on the ground with his back turned towards Tails, and seconds later, Tails' warm and fluffy twin tails cover him in return to his action, providing Sonic fluff as he slept. The next morning, however, Sonic wakes up to find one of the patrons hugging him in her sleep, much to his uneasiness, while Tails appeared laying farther away from Sonic. Not long after, Sonic is being carried through the mountains by Tails, who has pinpointed the coordinates on the map now that the blizzard has cleared up. There, they find an ancient temple inside a hole in a mountain. Heading into the temple, the pair finds a wall with ancient inscriptions. Upon Sonic's inquiry, Tails begins translating it, revealing that ages ago, the fearsome warriors of the Echidna tribe forged the 7 Chaos Emeralds into the most unstoppable weapon ever created, the Master Emerald. With its power, a single warrior could defeat entire armies. Believing that no one should have such power, an ancient order of heroes, the Giant Owls, recovered the emerald and swore to protect it from evil, thereby sparking a centuries-long conflict between the two orders. Heading deeper into the temple, Sonic and Tails find a giant owl statue with inscribed slots on it. Recognizing the symbols on the slots from Longclaw's map, Sonic aligns the symbols as displayed on the map. This triggers a mystical mechanism that reveals the compass leading to the emerald, which Sonic grabs. Unfortunately, Robotnik and Knuckles arrive in the Egg Mobile immediately after with Badniks, who destroy the door out of the temple. The two thank them for doing all the hard work and seek to take the compass off their hands. After some banter, Robotnik fires a missile that Sonic redirects into the owl statue, causing the temple to start caving in and open a way for them. Heading for the exit, Sonic snatches a panel from a Badnik that he destroys, before he and Tails reach a steep drop off a mountainside. After telling Tails to take the high route, Sonic heads down the mountain on the panel like a snowboard. However, the Badniks pursue and open fire on him, with Tails unable to get close due to the fire and Robotnik. Knuckles, who got stuck in the temple, escapes and imitates Sonic's makeshift snowboard maneuver to pursue him. Meanwhile, Sonic uses snowballs at high speed to throw off the Badniks, only to run into another swarm of them. However, Sonic manages to dodge them all at super speed before using a buzz bomber to destroy the others. As Sonic continues his trip, Knuckles soon catches up to him, much to Sonic's annoyance. The two fight while they slide down the mountain. But despite posturing that he is doing better than Knuckles in response to the echidna boasting himself that he has been training for this quest his whole life, Knuckles eventually manages to knock Sonic off his snowboard with a display of his power, causing him to land on the edge of a cliff. All of his rings fall out of his pouch in the process, leaving him with no means to escape. Climbing back up to see Knuckles in front of him, Sonic mocks his opponent's temper, to which Knuckles replies that he knows nothing about him. Sonic bitterly retorts that he knows echidnas have a habit of ruining his life, but Knuckles tells Sonic that he lost everything because of him. He explains that years ago, his tribe was on the verge of its greatest victory. Having located Longclaw, the last of the Owl Warriors, the tribe were heading out to obtain what knowledge of the Master Emerald she had. A then young Knuckles wanted to join them, but his father kept him from coming along, insisting that his moment to honor their tribe would come, but that this was not the moment. However, he never saw his father or tribe again after they left. Sonic sympathizes with Knuckles' story, recalling his last moments with Longclaw and sadly admitting that they both lost everything that day. Hearing this, Knuckles begins to soften up, only to be trapped by Tails' electric bindings. This causes Knuckles to believe Sonic was deceiving him as he breaks free of the restraints, with the Hedgehog attempting to explain that what he said was genuine and not lies to get Knuckles to lower his guard. Sonic tries passing the compass over to Tails, but Robotnik swoops in front of the fox and snatches the compass at the last moment before firing some missiles behind him, the explosions of which knock Tails out cold. Immediately concerned for his new friend, Sonic runs over to help, begging him to wake up. Knuckles hitches a ride with Robotnik, noting that Sonic chose Tails over the compass. Robotnik simply writes off this friendship as a weakness, much to Knuckles' suspicion. Immediately after, an avalanche occurs, forcing Sonic to take Tails and try snowboarding away as Robotnik and Knuckles escape. With no other choice, he tries calling Tom on his phone. Back in Hawaii, Rachel and Randall's wedding ceremony is underway, with a biplane arranged by Randall flying by and carrying a banner attributing the couple. However, Tom's ringtone disturbs the ceremony. He tries to put his phone away, but Sonic calls again, much to Rachel's angry annoyance. This time, Tom sees from a text message from Sonic that it is an emergency, walking away from the ceremony to answer the video call. Although angry at first, Tom notices that Sonic is out snowboarding, with Sonic telling him to use the ring he gave him to open a portal for him to escape the avalanche through. Tom proceeds to throw the ring, but nothing happens. Taking a closer look, Tom realizes he got the ring mixed up with Rachel's wedding ring when he was teasing JoJo and that Randall is currently putting it on Rachel. With Sonic urging him to hurry, Tom disrupts the wedding ceremony and is forced to punch Randall to get the ring back. Tom then opens the ring portal in front of the wedding reception. Sonic and Tails blast through it, followed by a wave of snow that buries everyone. As everyone recovers, Tom is notably upset at Sonic while Maddie wants an explanation. Sonic gives a quick rundown of what has happened since yesterday before turning his attention to Tails, who is still unconscious. However, he is soon after hit by a taser net and knocked out as every one of the guests draw taser pistols at the Wachowskis, much to Rachel's confusion. Commander Walters then shows up and reveals that he and his associates are federal agents, including Randall. Realizing that her wedding was a setup as a part of Walters' Operation Catfish, and that nearly everyone involved is an agent, Rachel loses her temper and tries to attack an apologetic Randall, but is restrained. Meanwhile, Sonic and Tails are hauled away in cages. Concerned, Tom begins to punch the agents, doing so in order to stop them, but is held back by Randall and taken away along with them. Maddie tries telling Walters that Sonic is no threat, but Walters insists otherwise and declares that their days of aiding and abetting him are over before ordering for Sonic, Tails, and Tom to be secured in the hotel for now. Rachel, however, still wants an explanation for everything. Walters explains that following the incident in San Francisco, a global task force named Guardian Units of Nations, GUN, was created to protect the Earth from alien threats, which includes Sonic. Maddie, however, insists that Robotnik is a threat, not Sonic. Walters rebuts that Robotnik is dead, but Maddie tells him otherwise and mentions that he is taking away the only ones that can stop him, prompting Walters to call in aid to find the doctor before taking his leave. Jojo then brings Maddie Tails' left-behind backpack with gadgets, which inspires Maddie to go save Sonic, Tails, and Tom. Rachel, wanting a word with Randall, is in on it. While Tom, Sonic, and Tails are taken into the hotel, Sonic's only concern is Tails' well-being, desperately begging for the agents to get him some help. Meanwhile, Maddie and Rachel scope out the hotel, which is infested with GUN agents. Maddie then decides to go after Tom and Sonic, while an emotionally unstable Rachel wants to get even with Randall. Arming themselves with Tails' gadgets, the two head for the hotel. Upon encountering their first agent, Rachel throws an anti-gravity gadget that sends the agent flying high into the sky, allowing them to proceed, eventually finding the place where Sonic, Tails, and Tom are being held. Maddie and Rachel split up to find their respective targets. Just as Maddie enters the hotel, however, she is surrounded by GUN agents. Fortunately, Rachel comes to her rescue with a homing boomerang from Tails that knocks the agents out, allowing Maddie to continue. Meanwhile, Randall, remorseful over what he did to Rachel, tries to have a toast with Walters, only for the agent that was lifted into the sky to come back down and warn them of Maddie and Rachel's attack. Immediately after, a furious Rachel arrives in a golf cart, crashing into the ceremony's set pieces while amazing Randall with her passion. As Randall tries explaining himself to an understandably upset Rachel, Walters threatens her with a taser pistol. When Rachel refuses to back down, Walters fires, only for Randall to take the shot for her. Walters expresses his disappointment with Randall, but nonetheless takes aim at Rachel again. Rachel, however, takes out a blaster made by Tails and blows up her wedding cake to pieces with it, showing she has the better firepower and causing Walters to surrender. Rachel then confronts Randall, asking if their love was ever real. Randall then admits that while he did not think he could love others, he still ended up truly falling in love with her. With that, they both kiss. Back inside the hotel, Maddie finds and frees Sonic, Tails, and Tom from their restraints. Meanwhile, Robotnik, Knuckles, and some badniks arrive at an island not too far away via a ring. Using his control glove's scanner, Robotnik locates a pedestal in the sand which Knuckles inserts the compass into. Soon after, a mystical mechanism is activated, and the sea in front of them split apart to reveal an ancient temple in the middle of it. Back on Hawaii, Maddie is tending to the still unconscious Tails when she, Sonic, Tom, and a bound and gagged Walters notice storm clouds and a green pillar of energy on the horizon. Sonic recognizes it as a sign that Robotnik and Knuckles have found the Master Emerald. Tom suggests that they make a plan together, but Sonic refuses, saying that there is no time for a plan and that he is the only one fast enough to stop things before they worsen. Tom and Maddie disagree with his course of action, but Sonic, after expressing his sorrow over allowing someone who idolizes him to nearly get killed on his watch and blowing his chance to be a hero, declares that he is not letting anyone else get hurt because of him, assures them that he will fix the issue while he still has the chance, and runs off. Tails wakes up immediately after and tries to follow Sonic, but is too injured to keep up. Tom and Maddie try to tell him to rest, but Tails grimly informs them that they have no idea what Sonic is up against. Tom and Maddie then turn to Walters, with Tom asking if he believes them now. Humbled, Walters can only nod his head. Meanwhile, back in Green Hills, Wade heads to the Mean Bean Coffee Cafe as he patrols the town, on scooter, since his cruiser was destroyed, only to discover that the cafe is closed. Suspicious, Wade takes a peek inside, only to see Stone fiddling with the equipment as he designs a new look for Robotnik. Intruding on Stone, Wade holds him at gunpoint while having him show that his control gloves are not dangerous with outlandish demands. Back in Hawaii, Sonic is at the coastline. Despite his dislike of water, Sonic pulls himself together and charges up his chaos energy before running at full speed across the sea. However, the waves worsen as he gets further away from the shore, making it hard for him to navigate, and he eventually wipes out. Fortunately, he wakes up soon after, having washed up on the island's shore, and finds the temple. Inside said temple, Robotnik, Knuckles, and some badniks are making their way through a labyrinth of traps, barely managing to stay one step ahead of them. Along the way, Robotnik's accompanying badniks are destroyed by the traps. After just barely avoiding getting crushed by a spiked ball and swinging axe, Robotnik decides that they should approach the labyrinth more scientifically and so deploys a miniature badnik from his glove that scans the labyrinth ahead of them, which Robotnik uses to form a holographic map with his control glove for them to follow. Elsewhere, Sonic enters the labyrinth via waterslide and decides to run through it at high speed in hopes of reaching the center, either moving too fast for the traps or barely dodging them along the way. Meanwhile, Robotnik and Knuckles reach the center of the temple after Knuckles punches down a wall. Seeing the Emerald's pedestal ahead of them, Knuckles proclaims that order will be restored thanks to their collaboration. Robotnik, however, declares Knuckles useless now and prepares to backstab him with his control glove's taser. But the action is interrupted when the two hear Sonic speed through the labyrinth before crashing through the roof and landing in front of them. Furious, Knuckles asks Sonic why he keeps interfering with his destiny, to which Sonic replies that he is doing it to protect his friends and family, and that if he wants the emerald, he has to get through him. Sonic then speeds toward the Master Emerald, but Knuckles intercepts him, and the two engage in an intense fight. Sonic says aloud that he does not want to have with Knuckles, but the echidna is not leaving him much choice. As Sonic and Knuckles clash, the tide of their battle constantly shifts. Meanwhile, Robotnik is closing in on the emerald. As Knuckles continues fighting Sonic, he notices Robotnik's approach and points it out to him. Although Knuckles is initially unconvinced, he eventually realizes the situation and calls Robotnik out for breaking their deal and betraying their supposed friendship. Robotnik laughs and mocks Knuckles for his lack of intelligence, gullibility, and his valuing of friendship before seizing the emerald, leaving him to die. The moment Robotnik touches the Master Emerald, it glows an extremely bright green and sends a shockwave out at Sonic and Knuckles, sending them backwards. The light dims down and reveals Robotnik holding the Master Emerald above his head, his red suit now black with green outlines, as he absorbs the emerald and warps away in a flash, causing the temple to crumble. With water flooding in, Sonic starts to flee but soon notices that Knuckles is pinned down by a pillar, unable to free himself and losing consciousness in the rising water. Overcoming his fear once more, Sonic uses a falling boulder to reach Knuckles and attempts to lift the pillar. Knuckles regains consciousness, and together they manage to push the pillar up just long enough for Knuckles to escape to the surface. However, when Sonic tries to swim, he begins to sink. Struggling to hold his breath, Sonic lets out a muffled cry for help. Fortunately, Knuckles arrives just in time to rescue them both and bring them back to the island. Once safe, Sonic tries to ask Knuckles why he saved him. Knuckles, clearly disappointed, states that he's not in the mood to talk, feeling that his quest to bring honor to his ancestors has failed because Robotnik, the person he thought he could trust, used and betrayed him to seize the emerald for himself. Unwilling to let it go, Sonic provokes Knuckles into answering by throwing sandballs at him. Knuckles reveals that he was repaying Sonic for saving him, despite not understanding Sonic's unusual tactics. Sonic responds that he could not allow Knuckles to die, which confuses Knuckles further. Given that he has been trying to destroy Sonic ever since they met, Sonic then recites Tom's advice about how being a hero means taking responsibility for others, which Knuckles starts to understand. Soon after, Tails arrives at the island in the tornado, much to Sonic's delight. Sonic tries to convince Knuckles to join them in stopping Robotnik. Knuckles asks Sonic how he can be so hopeful and free despite having lost everything, as he has with his numerous failures. Sonic explains that he has found a new family and friends to help him through tough times. After telling Knuckles he no longer has to be alone, the two solidify their newfound friendship with a handshake, one that crushes Sonic's hand, much to his annoyance and disbelief. Back in the Mean Bean Coffee Cafe, Wade has tied up Stone and is trying to interrogate him. However, his attempts at playing good cop, bad cop in order to get answers have proven fruitless. Immediately after, Robotnik teleports into the cafe in an emerald-empowered state. Feeling an elevated sense of self, Robotnik adjusts himself to his new powers as he teleports around, quickly forcing Wade to surrender while freeing Stone. Stone then reveals to Robotnik that the cafe is surrounded with armed personnel and military vehicles from GUN. But Robotnik tells him that he has a solution to this. Outside, Walters arrives in a helicopter with Tom and Maddie, where an agent informs him of Robotnik and Stone's presence in the cafe with a hostage, which Tom and Maddie recognize as Wade when said agent mentions his incompetence as sheriff for the weekend. Robotnik soon after comes out, and both him and Tom have some banter until Walters tells Robotnik that he is finished, as the US government has seized all his assets. The official dares the villain to prove how formidable he is without his robots. In response, Robotnik uses his new powers to tear apart GUN's vehicles and all other forms of technology in the vicinity and pull the pieces into a tornado, including Stone upon his request to come with the doctor. Tom and Maddie quickly realize that Robotnik is building something using the pieces. Meanwhile, Sonic, Tails and Knuckles emerge from a ring outside of town in the tornado. After the trio spot Robotnik's tornado and discuss the threat created by his continued usage of the Master Emerald's power, Tails voices his uncertainty over bringing Knuckles with them. Sonic, however, insists that Knuckles is not evil, just mixed up, which Knuckles vehemently denies. After Knuckles and Tails then come to a sort of understanding, the trio head towards the tornado, inside of which a machine is forming, which Robotnik boards with an impressed Stone inside a secondary command center in it. The tornado then dissipates and the giant Eggman robot is revealed. It was a towering mech sporting the Doctor's likeness. With the robot responding to Robotnik's movements, he has it begin trampling into green hills while playing music. While Gun falls back. Unable to fight it without their heavy armor or weapons, Sonic and his crew move in the tornado. Before Sonic can formulate a plan, though, Knuckles jumps off the tornado, leaving Sonic and Tails to face the giant Eggman robot without one. As Sonic taunts Robotnik, the Doctor decides to fire missiles at him. However, Stone has yet to figure out how to operate the giant Eggman robot, so Robotnik does it himself, shocking Stone with his energies as he operates the control panel. As a missile barrage is fired from the giant Eggman robot, Tails manages to steer the tornado through the barrage unharmed. Just as Sonic relaxes, he is knocked away by a missile hitting him. Meanwhile, down on the ground, Knuckles approaches the giant Eggman robot head-on, branding Robotnik a deceiver. In response, Robotnik tries to crush him with his robot's hand. Knuckles hits the hand with his best attack, but it does no harm, aside from causing Robotnik very mild pain. Back in the air, Tails shoots the giant Eggman robot with machine gun gadgets equipped to the tornado, but they also make no difference. Furthermore, the tornado's wings get crushed by the Stash Smasher, which Stone figured out how to use after reading the giant Eggman robot's manual. The tornado subsequently crashes into the ground and is destroyed, but Tails gets out of it in the last moment. Back to Sonic, he has managed to take control of the missile that hit him and redirects it into the giant Eggman robot's knee, shaking the machine enough to knock Stone out and leaving Robotnik on his own, though he is more concerned about a hostile workplace report from his subordinate. As Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles gather on the main street, Knuckles and Tails feel uncertain about what to do next. Sonic points out that if they each attack alone, they are likely to fail. However, he suggests that if they combine their strength, speed, and intelligence as a team, they will have a better chance of succeeding. Everyone agrees, and Sonic declares that this is their moment to shine. Meanwhile, inside the giant Eggman robot, Dr. Robotnik sends out his army of Chaos Energy-enhanced badniks to confront the trio. As the heroes engage the badniks, Sonic asks Tails for suggestions. Tails responds that they need to find the weak spot of the giant Eggman robot. Knuckles suggests the groin as a traditional weak spot, but a mortified Sonic rejects that suggestion. As the giant Eggman robot opens fire at them with lasers and they continue to demolish the badniks, Sonic realizes that he is Robotnik's weak spot, or groin, as he puts it. Noting that he lives rent-free in this dude's head, he reasons that if he can rile Robotnik up and get his attention, he will leave the giant Eggman robot open to a flanking maneuver from Tails and Knuckles. With the plan agreed upon, the trio splits up, with Sonic running up to the giant Eggman robot and taunting Robotnik into pursuing him. As Robotnik has the giant Eggman robot follow Sonic out of Green Hills, Tails carries Knuckles onto the backside of the giant robot. At the same time, Tom and Maddie are helping evacuate civilians. Upon stopping a local in his truck, however, Tom and Maddie decide to go get Sonic, their kid, as Maddie puts it. They borrow the truck from the local and head out in it. Meanwhile, out in the forest, Robotnik takes a moment to catch his breath while Sonic taunts him about his supposed future plans. In response, Robotnik declares his intention to enslave humanity and conquer the entire multiverse. He then begins firing eye lasers at Sonic, who narrowly dodges them. As Sonic runs across the bridge leading into Green Hills, he starts to tire and slow down, allowing the giant Eggman robot to catch up and unleash a nosebeam that destroys the bridge, sending Sonic plummeting into the ravine below. While Robotnik gloats about his superiority over the grounded Sonic, he notices Tails unexpectedly breaking into the giant Eggman robot's cockpit. Tails uses holographic images of himself to distract Robotnik. Declaring that he cannot be outsmarted, Robotnik blasts away the holograms, leaving Tails at his mercy. However, Tails reveals that he was merely a distraction. At that moment, Robotnik sees Knuckles on the other side of the cockpit and mocks him for switching sides. In response, Knuckles repurposes Robotnik's earlier phrase, "This is how I roll," and leaps at him, delivering a punch that knocks the Master Emerald out of Robotnik's grasp. Stunned and back to normal, Robotnik causes the giant Eggman robot to shut down, which then falls over, leading to Tails and Knuckles sliding out of it with the Master Emerald and landing outside, completely knocked out. Recovering, a frustrated and panicking Robotnik uses his control glove to activate the giant Eggman robot's auxiliary power, causing the robot to start powering up again. Meanwhile, an exhausted and injured Sonic comes back to his senses and spots the now cracked Master Emerald nearby. As Sonic limps his way towards it, Robotnik manages to get the giant Eggman robot back on its feet and walk towards Sonic. In the process, he fails to notice Tom and Maddie arriving from behind in the truck. Then, just before the giant Eggman robot can step on Sonic, he picks up the emerald and is himself picked up by Maddie as she and Tom drive by in the truck. Robotnik has his robot punch the ground just behind the truck, causing it to topple and crash from the shockwave. Crawling out of the wreck, Sonic, Tom, and Maddie spot the giant Eggman robot approaching to finish the job. With the emerald in his hands, Sonic believes that they can still defeat Robotnik. As he tries to figure out how it works, the emerald's brilliant green fades to gray as it crumbles to pieces in a panicking Sonic's hands, releasing the 7 Chaos Emeralds from it. Robotnik proceeds to use the giant Eggman robot's flamethrower to trap the trio inside a ring of fire. Sonic tells Tom and Maddie to save themselves, but the two of them refuse to leave Sonic behind, insisting that they are family. Declaring their love for each other, Sonic and his family accept their fate and prepare to die together as the giant Eggman robot brings its foot down upon them. However, just before this, the Chaos Emeralds respond to Sonic's emotions, and he inadvertently absorbs them. Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik believe that Sonic and the Wachowskis are dead, but the giant Eggman robot suddenly jerks up. Concerning Robotnik after he had briefly celebrated his long-awaited victory, Sonic, now transformed into the Golden Super Sonic, is lifting it with incredible power while the others, including the Wachowskis, who are still alive and well, thanks to his intervention, watch in awe. After blasting through the giant Eggman robot's foot, Super Sonic cuts its head off and coldly tells Robotnik that his plot is over with a furious glare. Robotnik tries talking Super Sonic into a truce, but it is just a distraction as he uses his control glove to have the giant Eggman robot take punches at him. Super Sonic, however, effortlessly stops and blows the robot's arms to pieces before piercing it several times at super speed and toppling it over with a tap of his foot, leaving Robotnik to fall with his collapsing robot to what appears to be his death in another attempt to prevent the remorseless doctor from ever returning again to wreak more havoc and endanger everyone. As Super Sonic descends, the Wachowskis rush over to congratulate him. However, Knuckles stops them. insisting that Sonic has been corrupted by the power of the Chaos Emeralds and is no longer the Hedgehog they once knew. Super Sonic then conjures a thunderstorm that concentrates in his hand. To everyone's surprise, it is revealed that Sonic was only creating a celebratory chili dog for himself. He then summons another one for Knuckles, which lands and splatters on Knuckles' face. Knuckles bluntly remarks that Sonic is still the same as he's always been. Super Sonic subsequently relinquishes the Chaos Emeralds, which vanish into parts unknown. And he reverts to his normal state. After Sonic receives hugs from Tom and Maddie, Tails asks why he gave up all that power. Sonic explains that he still has some growing up to do, and that he is fine just being a kid for now. Meanwhile, Knuckles starts to reassemble the pieces of the Master Emerald. Once it is finally complete, he questions what they should do next. Tails reminds them that both the Echidnas and Owls wanted to protect the Emerald from evil forces. And Knuckles mentions that they've all passed on to the great battleground in the sky. Sonic suggests that they establish a new order to guard the Emerald, beginning with the three of them. Knuckles insists that their task is serious and that they must take a vow to use our powers to keep the universe safe, to watch out for each other, and uphold their new tribe's duty. Tails proposes they do a power bump together to mark their oath, and they all comply. Sonic promotes Tails and Knuckles to his sidekicks for their adventures, warning them that the next big challenge could be just around the corner, but they will be ready for it. Tails, Knuckles, and the Wachowskis all agree to be prepared. In an epilogue that takes place some time later, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Tom, Maddie, and Ozzy gather at the baseball field in Green Hills to celebrate their victory against Robotnik with a baseball game. This field, which had once been the site of Sonic's solitary emotional breakdown 8 months prior, has transformed into a place where he can finally enjoy the sport with his newfound family. In the game, Sonic serves as the announcer and plate catcher, Tails is the pitcher, Tom and Maddie play as the field catchers, and Knuckles takes on the role of the batter. Treating the game like a battle for conquest, Knuckles, unfamiliar with the concept of having fun, struggles to grasp the purpose of the game. However, with encouragement from Tom and Maddie to simply enjoy himself, Knuckles decides to give it a try. When it's his turn to hit the baseball, Knuckles, disregarding the traditional rules, uses a powerful bump instead of his bat, launching the ball straight through the scoreboard. Despite this, Knuckles joyfully runs around the baseball field, celebrating what he perceives as a win. While Tails protests that the hit shouldn't count. With their only ball now lost, Maddie suggests they go for ice cream, and everyone agrees. Meanwhile, Tom and Maddie feel happy for Sonic, who has found a supportive group to grow up with. Maddie particularly enjoys Knuckles, saying he cracks her up, as Tom congratulates Sonic on finding friends. Sonic expresses that he has discovered much more, calling Tom Dad. This heartfelt moment leaves Tom emotional. As the group prepares to drive away in the truck, they almost forget the Master Emerald, which is sitting in a cooler. Sonic returns just in time to retrieve it. In a mid-credits scene, GUN forces arrive at the location where the giant Eggman robot was destroyed. At the site, Walters is informed by his agent that they have been unable to locate Robotnik. Though Walters is certain that Robotnik could not have survived and dismisses him with a good riddance, he fails to notice Stone, who has disguised himself as a GUN soldier and has managed to sneak away undetected. Walters then receives information from his agent that, while removing Robotnik from their databases, they discovered a file dating back over 50 years. This file contains coordinates to a well-hidden black site, and Walters realizes, with growing concern, that it pertains to Project Shadow. Meanwhile, in a remote research facility, a capsule opens, revealing a black and red hedgehog who awakens with eyes crackling with chaos energy. In August 2024, 4 years after the second film, on Prison Island in Tokyo Bay, Japan, an anthropomorphic red and black hedgehog named Shadow is being kept in suspended animation while being monitored by guardian units of nations. One of the guards expresses concern for the project, but another guard assures him that Shadow has not moved in 50 years. In his capsule, Shadow recalls old memories, such as listening to a young girl play on a guitar, watching the stars with her, and a tragedy that occurred long ago. Suddenly, Shadow's heart rate begins to spike. Then one of the guards notices that their system has been hacked and the containment tank is destabilizing. As the heart rate monitor glitches, the guards realize that Shadow is waking up and immediately calls for security. Multiple GUN soldiers surround and aim at the capsule containing Shadow. Despite his heart rate flatlining for a brief moment, Shadow suddenly awakens and shatters the glass, keeping him contained before teleporting out of sight. He then knocks out the soldiers one by one, using his ability to disappear and reappear in between each attack. One of the guards requests backup, only to realize that there is nobody left. Shadow breaks through the compound and teleports onto the water, skating away from Prison Island and toward Tokyo. Elsewhere, in a forest near Green Hills, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Tom, and Maddie are out enjoying a camping trip, while Tails and Knuckles start to prepare for a race. Sonic walks up to them dressed in swimming gear, under the assumption that they were going tubing. Realizing that they are actually having a race, Sonic discards his swimming gear and asks Tom and Maddie to start the countdown. Tom assures Maddie that a bit of sibling rivalry is healthy and that he and his brothers were similar. To which Maddie responds that his brothers were lunatics and none of them were born with the ability to trigger a global cataclysmic event. Tom concedes her point and asks the three to keep the race cataclysmic-less, which they all agree to. Once Maddie finishes counting down, the race begins. Sonic is confident that he is in the lead, but is surprised to see both Tails and Knuckles ahead of him. Sonic quickly takes back the lead, using his spin dash to gain more speed until he reaches the goal. His celebration is cut short when he sees that Tails and Knuckles were somehow already there, meaning he has lost, but he soon realizes that they are actually holograms. Sonic is initially excited to know that he is still the fastest of the group, but then becomes curious as to what is going on. He rushes back to the starting point to find Maddie, Tails, Tom, Ozzy, and Knuckles surprising him with a party. Tom explains that today is the anniversary of the day that Sonic came to Earth, dubbing it Happy Bee Earth Day. Knuckles states that today is the day they honor Sonic, while the others comment on how Sonic has improved the group's lives and brought them together as a family, except for Ozzy, who envies Sonic due to the fact that he stole his humans. After the party, Sonic thanks Tom for setting it up. He then notices a familiar location nearby and immediately rushes toward it, slightly annoying Tom by going too fast as usual. After arriving where Sonic went to, Tom quickly realizes that it is the cave where Sonic used to live. Tom is surprised that Sonic lived in such a poor environment for so long while Sonic plays with the nunchucks that he refers to as his state-of-the-art security system. Tom then notices a mural on the wall, which Sonic explains he drew on his first night on Earth to remember his origins and time with Longclaw. Sonic wonders if Longclaw would be proud of him. and Tom assures him that she would due to the fact that despite losing her at such a young age, he did not let his pain change who he is in his heart. Tom goes on to explain that life is about the choices people make, both good and bad, and that as long as Sonic listens to his heart, he will make the right choice when it matters most. Sonic thanks Tom for the advice and wonders how different his life would be without him, believing he would probably be a completely different Hedgehog, being just like Shadow. In Tokyo, Shadow is walking the streets, gradually growing accustomed to his new modern surroundings. Then he turns to see a promotional ad and discovers that it's the year 2024. Leaving him shocked to discover that he was trapped for 50 years, 1974 to 2024. All of a sudden, a horde of GUN soldiers and vehicles surround the area and rally around Shadow. Annoyed by GUN's continued pursuit of him, Shadow prepares for a fight as his eyes glow with red and orange energy. Back at the campsite, Sonic's group is relaxing and roasting marshmallows, with Tom and Maddie appreciating the opportunity to have some peace and quiet. However, they are interrupted by the sudden arrival of a GUN helicopter, from which Director Rockwell emerges. She explains to them that Commander Walters is requesting Team Sonic's immediate assistance in dealing with the situation in Tokyo. In response to this, Knuckles questions the team name while Sonic immediately agrees to it given his nature. As they set off on the helicopter, Maddie calls out to Team Sonic, reminding them to make good choices. After using a ring to reach Tokyo, Sonic asks Tails, who is piloting the helicopter, how to find Shadow. At that moment, a giant explosion erupts, providing them with a clear sign of where to start looking. Tails proudly displays his newly made titanium handcuffs, which Knuckles dismissively ignores, claiming he is 1,000,000% muscle. This assertion slightly annoys Sonic and Tails, as they have heard it numerous times before. The co-pilot informs Team Sonic that they are over the drop zone, and the trio agrees to stick together, regardless of who or what is down there. Director Rockwell approaches them, making a quip before Team Sonic exits the helicopter. Upon landing at the scene, they observe that GUN has been defeated and wonder what transpired. As Tails picks up strong energy readings on the Miles Electric, a truck is suddenly hurled toward them. Knuckles catches it and tosses it aside, once again boasting about his strength. Then, Shadow appears before Team Sonic, surprising them with his similar appearance to Sonic. Both Hedgehogs question why the other looks like him, but Shadow quickly dismisses the conversation as a waste of time. He warns the trio to walk away before they get hurt, wanting to resolve the situation without conflict. Sonic pulls out the handcuffs that Tails made and asks Shadow to talk with them. However, Shadow refuses, citing their association with GUN, and turns to walk away. Having had enough, Knuckles charges at Shadow to attack him, but Shadow uses his teleportation ability to overwhelm and send Knuckles crashing into a nearby shop. After helping Knuckles up, Team Sonic prepares to fight Shadow together, only to be swiftly defeated by the Black Hedgehog. He then picks up an energy gun and drives off on a motorbike, warning them not to follow. Tails tries to advise Sonic against pursuing Shadow, calling it a bad idea, but Sonic, believing that has never stopped him in the past, goes after him anyway. After chasing him through the streets of Tokyo and bantering along the way, Sonic and Shadow clash with their respective chaos energies, resulting in a city-wide power outage. The city's backup generators turn on shortly after, and Sonic wakes up to find himself handcuffed to a nearby railing. Tails and Knuckles quickly find him, the former of whom is upset that Sonic went off by himself despite them being a team. Sonic apologizes, still not fully accustomed to the concept of teamwork, and decides they need to regroup and get some answers from Gun before continuing. To this end, they decide to take shelter at a Chow Garden cafe, where they are later joined by Commander Walters. When Sonic asks who Shadow is, Walters explains that Shadow's story is similar to his own, but while Sonic found family and friends on Earth, Shadow only encountered pain and loss. Walters recounts that Shadow's story began over 50 years ago with a meteor crash in a quiet corner of Oklahoma. Inside the meteorite was a life form, specifically referred to as the ultimate life form. Scientists who discovered him experimented continuously with his chaos energy, believing it could usher in a new era for humanity. However, they eventually deemed it too dangerous. During an attempt by Gun to secure Shadow, a terrible accident occurred that destroyed the lab and resulted in many fatalities. The project leader was blamed for the incident, leading to his imprisonment and the cancellation of the program. Convinced that Shadow was too dangerous to release but also too valuable to destroy, Walters decided to place him in stasis indefinitely on Prison Island. Sonic realizes that if Shadow spent 50 years in stasis, someone must have helped him escape. Walters agrees, but he points out that only a few people in the world are aware of Shadow's existence. A live show then begins with the Chow mascots dancing on stage, much to Tails' excitement, only for it to be cut short by an attack from several drone badniks, who destroy the table team Sonic and Commander Walters were sitting at. As the civilians flee in terror, Sonic notices that they are the same robots previously used by Dr. Robotnik, who was assumed dead after his last defeat. A motorcyclist, whose face is concealed by his helmet, then crashes into the building, skidding to a halt in front of the drones. One of them attempts to shoot him with a missile, which he easily dodges, causing it to blow up part of the restaurant behind him. He then disables the drones using a device on his wrist before riding away. Team Sonic then finds Commander Walters trapped beneath some rubble, which Knuckles lifts, revealing the commander to be badly injured from the attack. Before succumbing to his wounds, Walters gives Sonic a key to what he describes as the most powerful weapon Gun has ever created, trusting only Sonic to keep it safe. Several trucks of Gun troops then arrive at the scene, with Director Rockwell among them. Searching Walter's body, she notices that his launch key is missing and instead finds a photo of Team Sonic, leading her to believe that they had stolen it and that they could not be trusted. Meanwhile, Team Sonic used parts of Chow costumes to disguise themselves and managed to sneak out undetected. Tails questioned why they were running from Gun, if they were supposed to be on the same side, but Sonic replied that they would not trust anyone until they had more information. Team Sonic chases down the mysterious biker, until the trio catch them at the docks. The motorcyclist removed his helmet to reveal himself as Agent Stone, much to Knuckles' surprise, as the Echidna had referred to Stone as the goat milker, causing Stone to mock him. Stone informed Team Sonic that he is not here to fight. Sonic and Tails demanded to know why he is here and why he had freed Shadow. However, Stone explained that the last thing they wanted was more super-powered hedgehogs running around, and that Robotnik had nothing to do with the attack. He then summons the mecha crab from the ocean and invites Team Sonic inside, where they find an overweight and unshaven Robotnik watching a telenovela, listening to music, and eating junk food. Stone and Team Sonic are here, with the team watching in disgust at how much Robotnik had let himself go. Sonic and Tails express their surprise at seeing Robotnik, who Sonic still refers to as Eggman, alive while also being disturbed by his disheveled appearance. However, the Doctor dismisses their comments, not caring what they think he looks like. Stone informs Robotnik of an imposter using his technology, showing footage from the attack at the Chow Garden. Annoyed at having his persona and precious babies stolen, Robotnik cross-references the coordinates of each drone's energy spikes in order to track down the imposter's base of operations. In order to get closer to finding Shadow, Team Sonic reluctantly decides to team up with Robotnik, but not before he makes Sonic hand over one of his quills, reinvigorating him with a burst of its chaos energy. With the alliance formed, Robotnik has Stone shave his head and help him make his suit fit. Meanwhile, Shadow is seen walking through an abandoned GUN facility in the mountainside when he comes across an old roller skate, causing him to reminisce on his late friend, Maria Robotnik. The scene shifts to a period from 1974, during which she is seen roller skating through the then active facility while carrying a box of her personal belongings. A guard tried to stop her as she approached the laboratory, but Walters, who was a captain at the time, allowed her to enter due to her being granddaughter of Professor Gerald. Walters told Maria where her room was while asking her to take her skates off. Shortly after, Maria came across a room containing the capsule where Shadow was being held for research. Hesitantly approaching the capsule, Maria tried to touch it, only for Shadow to suddenly turn around and glare at her. Although taken aback at first, Maria playfully glared back before drawing a funny face on the capsule to amuse herself. Upon seeing Shadow calm down a little, Maria put her hand on the capsule, and Shadow put his hand up to meet hers. From this point, the two formed a close friendship, enjoying various activities together such as dancing, skating, and watching a movie. However, during the latter, Shadow became upset due to the appearance of a monster that was referred to as an alien freak. Later on, Maria took Shadow up to a field outside the facility, where they watched the stars. Maria commented on their beauty while explaining that it can take hundreds of years for the light of a star to reach Earth, and that the star itself may no longer exist by the time people are able to see it. This prompted Shadow to wonderingly comment that the light shines, even though the star is gone. Maria wondered which star Shadow came from, although he had no memory of his home. Maria responded by telling Shadow that Earth is his home now. Shadow asked Maria if she thought he was dangerous like that movie monster was, as he could tell that the scientists thought so from the way they looked at him. Maria told Shadow that he was her friend, and that he could be whoever he wanted to despite his powers and origins. Shadow, now reassured, took her hand gratefully and they both continued gazing at the stars. The scene returns to 2024. Shadow arrives at the now destroyed room where he first met Maria, silently grieving until he notices Gerald behind him. The professor greets Shadow, having known he would come home. Shadow tells Gerald he is unable to stop thinking about Maria as the pain from losing her is overwhelming, which Gerald states is the reason they must punish those who took Maria's life. Around the same time, Robotnik, Stone, and Team Sonic arrive at the base via a ring. Robotnik tries to figure out a way to open the door, only for Knuckles to break it down with a punch. Hearing their arrival, Shadow prepares for a fight, but Gerald tells him these are the guests he was expecting and that they should give them a warm welcome. As Team Sonic, Robotnik, and Stone walk into the base, Stone wonders what this place is. Sonic replies that it looks like a military base, but nobody has been here for years, leading him to wonder if it's haunted. This thought frightens Knuckles, who is uneasy at the mention of ghosts. Stone then asks Knuckles if he is afraid of ghosts, but Knuckles insists that nothing scares an Echidna warrior. However, Sonic recalls Team Sonic's last movie night, where Knuckles was scared so badly while they were watching Casper that he grabbed Sonic and Tails' hands tightly in panic, causing both the Hedgehog and the Fox to spill their bowls of popcorn and scream in pain while trying to break free from Knuckles' grip, begging him to let go. Back in the present, Knuckles says that there is no such thing as a friendly ghost. Sonic and the others come across 3 separate paths and realize they need to split up to cover more ground. Not wanting to let Robotnik out of his sight, Sonic chooses the right pathway with him. Meanwhile, Tails and Stone head down the left, while Knuckles takes the middle alone. Knuckles attempts to keep his cool while navigating the tunnel, but is quickly caught by Shadow after the latter startles him. Meanwhile, Stone and Tails are walking through another tunnel, with the former admitting that he finds Tails adorable. Stone asks Tails what it is like being Sonic's assistant, wondering if he has a daily routine or any benefits. But Tails tells him that he and Sonic are actually teammates, with Sonic as the leader, Knuckles as the muscle, and Tails as the inventor. Tails explains that their team is made special by their unique roles and their bond as best friends, and asks Stone if he and Robotnik are the same. Despite not truly believing it himself, Stone tells him that they are indeed best friends. Shadow then appears from behind them and kidnaps them. Elsewhere, Sonic and Robotnik enter a room, and Sonic realizes from the items scattered about, including a photo of Shadow and Maria, that this was an actual home where people lived and that Shadow had a family. Sonic asks Robotnik if he has ever wondered what he would be like if he had a family to keep him from turning into a villain, although the doctor rejects this idea, stating that he never had a family and believing himself to be undesirable to all possible genders. Sonic enters the room where Shadow used to be kept, only for the latter to ambush and knock him out. While wondering where Sonic went, Robotnik comes across several of his stolen drones, prompting him to joyfully hug them. However, he is interrupted by the appearance of the imposter and activates the drones to threaten him. Despite this, the man simply praises Robotnik for his magnificent creations, and explains that he borrowed them to lure Robotnik here and reunite their family. When Robotnik does not respond, the man removes his glasses and properly introduces himself as Gerald Robotnik, Ivo's grandfather. Despite noticing the uncanny resemblance between them, Ivo does not yet believe they are relatives and begins interrogating Gerald, asking him many hard questions. After Gerald answers each question correctly, Ivo is convinced and hugs him, asking where he has been his entire life. Gerald tells him he has spent the last 50 years imprisoned, preventing him from contacting anyone. Gerald is about to tell Ivo why he brought him here, but Ivo retorts that he used his unparalleled intellect to track him down. Gerald counters that it was for the plan he concocted with his own unparalleled intellect, and leads Ivo to the spot where Team Sonic and Agent Stone are tied up in chains. As Sonic regains consciousness, he is horrified to see 2 Eggmen approaching him. Shadow confronts Ivo, referring to him as the long-lost grandson. In response, Ivo calls Shadow another stinking hedgehog. Team Sonic realizes that Gerald is the one responsible for Shadow's escape in the attack on Walters. Shadow then takes the key to GUN's superweapon from Team Sonic, claiming that he and Gerald intend to use it to reclaim everything GUN has taken from them. Gerald presents a hologram of the superweapon, an orbital satellite called the Eclipse Cannon. He explains that he provided GUN with this powerful weapon, the most advanced mankind has ever seen. In exchange for his freedom, the Eclipse cannon is capable of delivering a precision strike anywhere on Earth. Gerald decides that their first target will be GUN headquarters, which is located in London, callously dismissing Sonic's warning about the innocent lives that will be threatened. He then informs Evo that in order to fire the Eclipse cannon, they need 2 keys, with the second key being locked away in GUN headquarters. Evo agrees to join him, and they set off, accompanied by Stone aboard the Mecha Crab. Before they depart, Evo sarcastically thanks Sonic for inspiring their adventure, as it ultimately worked out in his favor, further justifying Sonic's lack of trust in him. Sonic pleads with Shadow not to allow his pain to change who he is inside. However, Shadow coldly replies that he has spent 50 years reliving what GUN did to Maria, and that this pain has shaped him into who he is today. He drops a small, marble-like device before teleporting away. Sonic is initially unimpressed by it, but it turns out to be a miniature black hole that is consuming all the matter in the base. It starts pulling Team Sonic in, but Knuckles grabs a rope with his teeth, holding them in place while Sonic uses one of Tails' rings to open a portal. Although it takes a while for the portal to actually open due to the ring bouncing off the surrounding debris, they manage to narrowly escape, ending up on a nearby cliff where they watch the last of the base being swallowed up by the black hole. Aboard the Death Crab, Evo, believing Sonic to be dead, is impressed by how quickly Gerald managed to dispose of him. Gerald, in turn, assures him that there is nothing they cannot destroy together. Stone charts a route to GUN headquarters in London, informing the Robotniks that they will arrive in about 4 hours. Realizing that they are ahead of schedule, Gerald decides to take the opportunity to spend quality time with his grandson. Much to Ivo's joy, using virtual reality headsets, they enjoy a variety of recreational activities together, with Stone trying but failing to join in. He prepares lattes for them but ends up discarding them after seeing how much fun they are already having. Back at the Wachowski household, Tom and Maddie are enjoying their new hobbies and interests, getting used to this. Suddenly, the place shakes as a ring portal opens in front of them and Team Sonic suddenly appears in the living room, asking for their help on a mission. Eager for excitement, Tom and Maddie immediately agree, having become bored without the rest of their family. Tails uses the Miles Electric to create a holographic simulation of GUN headquarters so they can devise a plan. Sonic initially thinks he can run across the water and into the base, but he quickly realizes this would get him incinerated by the energy shield. Tails explains that to disable the shield, they need to gain control of it by planting a USB drive in the server room, a task that will fall to Tom and Maddie. After that, Sonic will need to navigate through a laser hall to access the vault. However, GUN has wiped all images and schematics of the vault from their database, leaving them unaware of its design and preventing them from using a ring to access it. Maddie suggests that the plan would work a lot better if Sonic could use the Master Emerald to transform into Super Sonic and obtain the key. Sonic, however, refuses, stating that the Master Emerald is far too powerful to be used again and that they made a promise to keep it hidden. As the only one who knows the Master Emerald's location, Knuckles asserts that as its guardian, anyone who attempts to take it for any reason will become a sworn enemy. Sonic reassures Tom and Maddie that this is the right decision, and they set off for London. Around the same time, Team Robotnik arrives right outside GUN headquarters. Shadow, fueled by his desire for revenge, wants to quickly grab the key and destroy anyone in his way. But Gerald tells him to be patient and let him and Evo handle it, promising the Hedgehog that he will soon have his revenge on an unimaginable scale. Agent Stone provides the Robotniks with their bodysuits for the mission, and is instructed by Evo to watch Shadow in the meantime while keeping the mecha crab hidden. While Evo and Gerald set off, Stone invites Shadow into the mecha crab to have guac, to which Shadow responds, "Revenge guac." Meanwhile, Sonic impatiently waits for his team to start the operation. Complaining about waiting all day, though Tails points out they have only just begun. Tails asks for Tom, Maddie, and Knuckles' status, with all three in position and ready to proceed. Knuckles, who has taken position atop the Big Ben, is tasked with breaking glass in case of an emergency, although he initially ignores the emergency part out of eagerness for the chance to punch something. In order to gain access into the headquarters, Tom and Maddie use Tails' hologram technology to assume the likeness of GUN agents, with Maddie taking on Rachel's appearance. Tom critiques Maddie's initial enthusiasm as Rachel for being out of character, causing Maddie to immediately display the more aggressive attitude Rachel is known for. Tom responds that it is perfect and takes on the appearance of her husband Randall. As Tom and Maddie approached the front desk of the headquarters, Tom, disguised as Randall, requested to have lunch upstairs with his wife. The agent at the front desk informed him that the facility was currently locked down and that only those with command-level clearance were allowed access. Tom quietly contacted Tails through the intercom, prompting the Fox to realize that security had tightened following Shadow's escape. At that moment, Maddie, disguised as Rachel, stepped in and delivered an intimidating speech to the agent, threatening to have him fired if he did not comply. Yielding to her pressure, the agent allowed them to proceed. Once upstairs, they switched out of their holograms. Maddie transformed into Captain Rockwell and attempted to gain access to the server room using facial recognition. However, Tom noticed the real Rockwell approaching with several guards. After a tense moment, Rockwell walked past them, and they seized the opportunity to enter the server room. Tails guided Tom and Maddie to the location of the security server, while Sonic and Knuckles grew impatient, ready to carry out their part of the mission. Maddie inserted the drive, but it had no immediate effect, leading Sonic to question whether she had inserted it correctly. In a moment of inspiration, Tom suggested blowing on the drive before reinserting it, which successfully activated it. As Tails was about to shut down the outside sensors, Tom and Maddie noticed another USB drive next to theirs, this one with a giant mustache. Meanwhile, Tails detected two heat signatures moving toward the vault. It turned out to be the Robotniks, who were using the camouflage feature in their suits to sneak past the guards undetected. In the Mecha Crab, Shadow and Stone are watching La Ultima Pasión, the same telenovela Evo was watching earlier. Shadow believes that Gabriella, the show's female lead, should kill Juan and Pablo, the two men competing for her love, as she is not a prize to be won. Stone tells Shadow to lighten up, reminding him that they are about to rule the world. Shadow, however, replies that there will be nothing left to rule once they are done. This comment concerns Stone, causing him to ask what he and Gerald are up to. Meanwhile, Tails detects an outside signal from the Mecha Crab. He destroys it by flooding the sewer where it is concealed, resulting in both the Mecha Crab and Stone being washed away. Meanwhile, the Robotniks arrive at the laser hall, where Gerald asks Evo what their next move is. When Evo unexpectedly pushes him into the lasers, Gerald initially panics and flails around. However, he soon realizes that his bodysuit is protecting him from the lasers. Ivo explains that he designed the suits to be impenetrable to lasers, but he was previously unsure if the design would work. After Gerald compliments Ivo on his cruelty and heartlessness, they begin to dance their way through the laser hall, demonstrating perfect synchronization and coordination in their movements. Outside, Tails notices that the Robotniks are nearly at the vault, prompting Sonic to take action despite Tails' warnings about the active traps. After quickly taking in the sights of London, Sonic approaches GUN headquarters, with his friends telling him that he isn't going to make it. At the last moment, just before he collides with the barrier, Tails grabs him and gives him a boost, allowing Sonic to get inside unharmed. Having arrived at the vault, the Robotniks watch as the doors open, revealing to them a room with the Eclipse cannon key at the center. When Sonic arrives behind them, they make a run for the key, only to be pinned to the floor by an artificial gravity trap. Sonic taunts them and attempts to grab the key himself, but is caught in a similar trap that causes him to float in the air. Director Rockwell arrives and explains that the vault is armed with variable gravity, with green panels containing reduced gravity while the red panels have the opposite effect. Sonic attempts to warn Rockwell about the Robotnik's plan, but she disregards him. Still under the impression that Sonic wants to steal the key, a group of GUN soldiers then enter the vault, having captured Tom, Maddie, and Tails. Tom and Ivo briefly exchange insults but are interrupted by Rockwell, who plans to arrest all of them. However, Sonic takes the opportunity to call in Knuckles, who glides toward the headquarters at high speed, using the flames of disaster to break through the barrier and into the vault, the impact of which knocks the gravity control device out of Rockwell's hands. Sonic tells Knuckles to disable the gravity trap, but he breaks the device instead, causing the gravity in the vault to go haywire and send everyone in different directions. Sonic is pinned to the floor while a large piece of debris starts to collapse above Tom, Maddie, and Tails, who are also stuck on the other side of the vault. Rockwell attempts to reach the key while floating in the air, pushing her way past soldiers until she and the key suddenly fall to the ground, with Ivo right across from her. As they both slowly inch toward the key, Sonic, still under the effects of the red gravity panel, uses his chaos energy to build up enough strength to launch a spin dash, destroying the debris and saving Tom, Maddie, and Tails. At the same time, the gravity in the vault returns to normal, causing everyone who was floating, including Knuckles, to fall back down. Rockwell grabs the key before Ivo can and walks out of the vault, prompting Tom to follow her. As Rockwell retreats down the hallway, she encounters Tom, who is disguised as Commander Walters and wearing an arm cast. He thanks Rockwell for keeping the key safe and asks her to hand it over. Although she is initially suspicious, Rockwell does not question his authority and gives him the key. Tom then asks her to organize the reinforcements. After getting out of sight, Tom reverts to his normal self and informs the others that he has the key before taking on Walter's appearance again. At that moment, Shadow suddenly breaks in through the roof. Enraged at the sight of Walters, Shadow strikes him with a chaos energy-fueled punch, immediately knocking him out. As he picks up the Eclipse cannon key, Shadow discovers that Walters was actually Tom in disguise. Sonic then arrives to inform Tom that the others have cleared the building, only to see Tom's unconscious body lying in front of Shadow. Horrified, Sonic rushes to him and desperately pleads for him to wake up. This scene reminds Shadow of his own reaction to Maria's death. Sonic then turns to Shadow, angrily demanding to know what he did. In response, Shadow simply says he did what he had to before teleporting away. Maddie, Tails, and Knuckles soon arrive, all crouching worriedly over Tom's body. Back in the vault, Evo and Gerald find themselves surrounded by GUN soldiers as they try to get back on their feet. Suddenly, Shadow appears and swiftly defeats all the soldiers. He hands Gerald the second key before teleporting the three of them aboard the Eclipse cannon. While Evo admires the design of the station, Gerald reveals a pair of new suits he has crafted for both of them, causing Evo to squeal with excitement. Evo crawls over and begins to kiss Gerald's feet affectionately. Meanwhile, Agent Stone slowly emerges from the river as the mecha crab sinks behind him. He calls Evo to inform him about Shadow's earlier comments, implying that Gerald may not have been completely honest with them. Evo interprets Stone's remarks as jealousy toward the bond between him and Gerald, leading him to fire Stone for his insolence. However, Evo decides to keep Stone around until he is successfully cloned. Stone pleads with Robotnik, expressing his reluctance to lose him again, but Evo hangs up and blocks Stone, leaving him to sadly give up. Gerald then hands Evo the two keys. Evo inserts them into the slot on the computer of the Eclipse cannon, causing it to rise from the River Thames. Team Sonic, Maddie, Agent Stone, and the people of London all watch in horror. Outside GUN headquarters, multiple police cars and ambulances arrive to assess the situation, accompanied by reinforcements from GUN. Tom is taken to an ambulance while Maddie follows closely behind. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles watch sadly as the ambulance doors close and it drives away. Maddie turns to Sonic and reassures him that it's not his fault, despite Tails trying to comfort him by saying that Tom will be okay. An enraged Sonic responds that comfort is not what he needs right now. He insists that he needs to stop them, by any means necessary. Brushes his and Knuckles' concerns off and decides to use the power of the Master Emerald. Knuckles immediately disagrees, reminding Sonic that the Master Emerald must never be used for vengeance and that they swore an oath to each other. Sonic insists that they are out of options and that he will do it alone if necessary. Knuckles tells him that his heart is being consumed by anger and that he is not in a suitable state to make decisions, with Tails adding that they are all upset about Tom still refusing to back down. Sonic gives Knuckles one last chance to reveal where the Master Emerald is located. As tension rises and it seems a fight may break out, chaos energy crackling through both of their bodies, Knuckles finally relents. He states that part of their oath is to trust each other and that he will uphold this principle, even if Sonic does not. He reveals that the Master Emerald is guarded by a fearsome warrior, and that Sonic will have to get through him. It is then revealed that Wade Whipple is the fearsome warrior guarding the emerald and that he is using it as a hockey puck on the roof of the Green Hills Sheriff's Department. Sonic appears from a ring and tells Wade he is here for the emerald. Wade refuses, feeling a sense of responsibility over protecting the emerald. Sonic effortlessly takes the emerald, leaving Wade to stand there and give up immediately, saying, "Well, I tried." Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds within it to transform into Super Sonic before flying to the Eclipse Cannon. Meanwhile, the Eclipse Cannon continues its ascent until it reaches outer space. News channels in London, Japan, and New York report on its appearance, as well as on the Robotniks who have taken control of it. Overlooking the Earth, Shadow asks Gerald if this is truly what Maria would have wanted. Taking advantage of Shadow's grief, Gerald responds that it is not about Maria's desires but rather what the world deserves. He urges Shadow to remember the significance of Maria in their lives and what the world stole from them. Gerald's words lead Shadow to reminisce about the past, specifically the day he lost Maria. At that moment, both he and Maria were sitting in their room when Gerald suddenly entered, informing them that they needed to escape because Gun was trying to take Shadow away. The three of them fled down a hallway in the base, pursued by Gun soldiers. One soldier aimed his weapon, but Walters tried to intervene, not wanting Maria and Shadow to get hurt, as they were just kids. However, the soldier fired anyway, hitting a nearby canister that caused a massive explosion. As Shadow recovered, he noticed Gerald kneeling over Maria, who had been killed by the blast. While they both grieved her death, the soldiers approached Shadow and Gerald to apprehend them. Back in the present, Shadow, filled with rage, starts to run furiously around the Eclipse cannon's core. As he charges it at high speed, he infuses the core with his chaos energy. Curious, Evo asks Gerald what Shadow is doing. Gerald explains that Shadow is powering up the core by infusing it with chaos energy. And the Eclipse cannon is about to turn the Earth into a flaming pile of rubble, wiping out everything in a 25,000-mile radius, as well as the two of them. Evo is confused by this revelation, as he had hoped that they would rule humanity together with their combined genius. However, Gerald, with a sense of nihilism, declares that humanity is a failed experiment. He believes that Evo should understand this better than anyone, since he has been rejected by the world all his life. He goes on to tell Evo that he has nothing down there nor anyone who cares about him. Evo points out that he and Gerald are family and still have each other, but Gerald coldly disregards this, stating that he is no Maria, and that the only way for him to give her life meaning is to destroy the world that took her from him. Shadow then informs Gerald that he is done, allowing the professor to prepare the firing sequence that would fully charge the weapon in 10 minutes. Looking out the window, Shadow declares that Maria will soon receive justice. He then notices a bright streak of light approaching the cannon and wonders if Gun is launching missiles at them. However, Gerald observes that the object is moving too fast. Evo pulls out Sonic's quill from earlier and watches as it turns a golden yellow, leading him to realize that it's supersonic. Supersonic goes through the window, he rams Shadow and takes him out of the station. Supersonic tells Shadow that he hurt his family and that everything ends at that moment. Shadow tells him that this makes him understand his anger and the pain he has felt for 50 years and declares that Supersonic also chose revenge. Sonic tells him that he is not like him, to which Shadow tells him that they are going to see that. Sonic and Shadow start fighting and crash on Earth. Shadow hides in the dust from the impact and Sonic yells at him to show himself, calling him a coward. As if on cue, Shadow reveals himself and hits Sonic hard enough to knock the Chaos Emeralds out of him. Sonic and Shadow try to grab the Chaos Emeralds to use them against each other, but they both reach for them at the same time and simultaneously, transforming them into Super Sonic and Super Shadow. Sonic tries to hit Shadow, but Shadow easily blocks it and tells Sonic that he was right about everything ending at that moment. The two hedgehogs start a brutal fight that takes them around the world while Evo and Gerald observe from the Eclipse cannon, unable to keep track of the hedgehog's speed. Evo distracts Gerald and attempts to stop his grandfather's plans, although Gerald uses his suit's nanotechnology to create a giant gauntlet and fight back. Super Sonic and Super Shadow continue furiously exchanging blows until they end up in Cape Sunion, Greece. Shadow asks Sonic why he is alone and questions him as a hero, saying that he abandoned his friends and family to get revenge. Sonic warns Shadow not to mention his family. But Shadow goes too far and tells Sonic that he thought he cared about his family, especially Tom. Hearing his name, Sonic is overcome with rage and he hits Shadow with a blow so strong and powerful that it throws him into space. Shadow crashes against the moon and returns to his normal form. Sonic appears, drags him against the lunar surface and immobilizes him. Sonic grabs Shadow to give him the final blow and Shadow tells him to end everything and destroy him. Shadow points himself in the chest and tells Sonic to hit him in the heart to kill him, but then Sonic remembers what Tom told him about he did not let his pain change him, which allows him to not make the same mistake as Shadow and let the pain and rage turn him into something he is not. Sonic frees himself from his rage, lets go of Shadow and returns to his normal form. Shadow is confused as to why Sonic is not taking his revenge after winning the battle, but Sonic tells him that there are no winners with revenge. Shadow looks at space and reminisces on the night he and Maria went stargazing, commenting that he has felt the pain of losing her for so long that it is all he knows. When Sonic reveals that he felt the same way after he lost Longclaw, Shadow asks if his pain eventually went away, which Sonic denies before explaining that with time he realized there was something stronger than the pain, his and Longclaw's love for each other. He tells Shadow that love is what he needs to hold onto, telling him that even though Maria is gone, his love for her will always remain. Shadow finally manages to free himself from the rage that blinded him for 50 years. At that moment, the sun starts to rise from behind the earth and Shadow remembers what Maria told him. The light shines, even though the star is gone, just as Sonic notices the eclipse cannon. Shadow blames himself for the problems he caused, realizing that he was so blinded by rage he thought he had no other choice. Sonic stands up, reminding him that he always has a choice, and offers his right hand to Shadow in a similar fashion to when he convinced Knuckles to fight for the greater good. Shadow accepts the kind gesture, with Sonic stating that the right choice is never easy to make, and that, when you really screw something up, you can't fix it on your own. With this, the two hedgehogs re-enter their super forms and, after a brief exchange of quips, set off together to stop the eclipse cannon. Meanwhile, Evo and Gerald continue fighting, with both using their suits' nanotechnology to create weapons and appendages, such as those of a scorpion or mantis, to gain the upper hand. Evo manages to cut off the left half of Gerald's mustache, but is knocked off the cannon's platform and left hanging off the edge. Gerald then notices Super Sonic and Super Shadow approaching via a camera feed, bringing him to the realization that Shadow has betrayed him. As such, he sends a horde of gun hunters to stop them. But they are no match for the hedgehogs and are easily destroyed. Evo pleads with Gerald not to do this, but Gerald coldly taunts him and steps on his hand, causing him to fall into space. While Gerald celebrates and gloats, he fails to notice that Evo was saved by Tails and Knuckles and is being carried back into the cannon. Using Super Sonic's quill, Evo shocks Gerald from behind, the impact of which sends him flying into the Chaos Energy Reactor, instantly killing him as it electrocutes and disintegrates his body on contact. Evo compliments his now late grandfather's bug zapper as he blows on and discards the quill. Tails declares that the three of them have to stop the laser, and they all race to the console. While they cannot stop the laser, they can at least redirect its path, pulling on the levers with all their might to guide the thrusters into changing the laser's course. Outside, Super Shadow notices the laser is about to fire and asks where Super Sonic is. He finds him being chased by several gun hunters, asking for a hand. Shadow produces several Chaos Spears and destroys the horde with them. allowing them to proceed as Sonic tells Shadow to follow him. As the people on the Earth below watch, including, back in London, Agent Stone from the streets and Maddie from a hospital room as she keeps a still unconscious Tom company, the Eclipse cannon fires. But the Super Hedgehogs race to block it with their bodies, with Shadow incredulous and annoyed that this was Sonic's plan to avert disaster, and Sonic, seeing his point, pleading for someone to stop the giant death ray. While Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman continue to struggle moving the laser away from Earth, Sonic begins to strain, unable to handle the force of the laser for much longer. Fortunately, the laser is successfully redirected in time, and Sonic and Shadow are free to move out of the way, the former beginning to plummet to Earth after losing both consciousness and his super form out of exhaustion. The laser just barely misses Earth, and Tails, Knuckles, and Evo celebrate their victory, which Eggman immediately claims for himself, but are horrified as they watch it slice off a chunk of the moon instead, which Eggman blames Tails and Knuckles for. Tails, however, is further horrified to see Sonic's unconscious body falling to Earth, declaring that they have to save him. He asks Knuckles for a ring. The echidna produces one, but warns that it is their last. The two race to an airlock, Tails asking Knuckles if he is ready for some base of ball as he clambers into the echidna's hand. Once the airlock opens, Knuckles positions himself so as not to be sucked into space before hurling Tails out, allowing the fox to get close to Sonic. However, as Tails grabs hold of him and prepares to throw the ring, he struggles to stay conscious against the forces of atmospheric re-entry. Back aboard the Eclipse cannon, Eggman stands alone as the cannon begins to explode around him, only to be scared when Super Shadow teleports in, asking him what is happening. Eggman answers that the cannon's reactor core is overloading and it will soon explode, bathing the Earth in radiation and rendering it uninhabitable. Shadow insists the two of them are not done and orders Eggman to stabilize the reactor long enough for him to push the cannon safely away from Earth, stating that this is their last chance to do the right thing. Eggman agrees to the plan and wishes Shadow well, in Spanish, before the Hedgehog teleports back out. Eggman heads to the center platform, which raises up to allow him to begin stabilizing the reactor with his gloves. As he does, he releases a miniature camera drone that records him as he begins a final livestream dedicated to Agent Stone, who watches it on a building's screen that Eggman has hacked into. The Doctor declares that if he can't rule the world, he might as well save it, for the one and only person who cared about him, all as a devastated Stone pleads with him not to do it. Meanwhile, Shadow takes off his limiter rings to unleash his full power, beginning to push the Eclipse cannon away from Earth as fond memories of his time with Maria flood his mind. Evo continues his message by admitting that Stone was not just a sycophant to him, but a psycho friend, which touches the latter. He says that he will miss the agent's lattes with steamed Austrian goat milk, even adding, "I love the way you make them," in a sentimental tone. Back in Earth's atmosphere, Tails finally passes out just before he can throw the ring and save Sonic, letting go of both it and him, but Knuckles dives down towards them, managing to stay conscious long enough to finish what Tails started by tossing the ring himself and grabbing his friends tightly as they fall into the resulting portal. Eggman finishes his message by imitating a robot as he often did and sarcastically stating, "It's been a real drag. Thanks for nothing." Simultaneously, Shadow shuts his eyes in acceptance as the Eclipse cannon finally explodes into an celestial spiral of chaos energy. On Earth, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles exit the ring portal and land safely in a cornfield, all of them regaining consciousness. The trio looks up at the explosion in the sky as Tails mournfully notes that Shadow and Eggman sacrificed themselves to save the planet. With Sonic sadly repeating his earlier line of "You always have a choice." Acknowledging his previously self-serving arch-nemesis Eggman unexpectedly choosing to prioritize the Earth's protection over his own life. Sonic then turns to Tails and Knuckles and apologizes for abandoning them, saying they are the best teammates and friends he could ever want and asking for forgiveness. Knuckles in particular stares at him intensely for a few moments before warmly holding his fist up for a power bump, showing he accepts the apology by asking, "Team Sonic?" Sonic speeds in to hug him instead and includes Tails in the hug not long after, suggesting that they should just call themselves Team. Back in London, Stone looks up at the explosion himself, bidding Eggman a final goodbye before turning to walk off into the night. Sometime later, in the same forest outside Green Hills where the Wachowskis had their last camping trip, they go on another adventure. As Maddie and Ozzy sit nearby, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles decide to create a giant s'more using various food items. Tails calls out to a tent, announcing that it's ready, but when he turns around, he finds that Sonic and Knuckles have already eaten it. Sonic blames Knuckles for the mishap, even though he is equally responsible. Tails then informs the tent's inhabitant that they need to be faster. A mostly recovered Tom emerges from the tent with his left arm in a sling. He insists that he is still moving a bit slow, and the family gathers for a hug, which causes some discomfort for the injured sheriff. Knuckles declares that he is having the love, in response to which Ozzy barks, "I want the love," and joins the hug. Tails mentions how great it is to have everyone together again, and Knuckles adds that their bond is stronger than ever. Sonic concludes that nothing will stand in their way, except for a piece of unfinished business. Soon, Team Sonic line up for a more proper race, gleefully blasting off into the forest. Tails, in particular, activates his backpack-mounted jetpack to keep up with his faster friends. After sunset turns to night, Sonic stops in his tracks, celebrating his victory and declaring himself the family champion. However, he quickly realizes that Tails and Knuckles have not joined him yet. As he looks around, he notices a sign reading New York State Park, and sheepishly admits that he is in New York by overshot the finish line. Unbeknownst to him, a crackle of electricity forms not far behind. A robotic hedgehog figure resembling Sonic emerges from the electric field, charging its arm cannon as it stomps toward him. Sonic starts to wonder how he will get back. The robot raises its arm and fires, creating a large electric explosion that destroys the sign and leaves a substantial crater where Sonic once stood. Nonetheless, the hedgehog quickly re-emerges behind his robotic doppelganger, asserting that the robot better not miss when dealing with the fastest creature in the universe. He punches the robot hard enough to spin its head around, though it soon recovers. Now more aware of the robot's appearance, Sonic comments that he is flattered by the cosplay, but points out some mistakes. However, he concedes that it is hard to copy perfection. At that moment, several differently colored variants of the robot emerge from the woods surrounding the two. Caught off guard by the horde as they fly in to attack, Sonic is relieved when a hammer appears out of nowhere, smashing the variants to pieces. The hammer then flies into the hand of a hooded figure in midair, who swings it down onto the last remaining variant as they land on the ground. Sonic, shocked by this unexpected entry, asks who they are. In response, the figure turns to him, slings the hammer over their shoulder and lifts their hood, revealing the face of a pink female hedgehog who confidently smiles at him. Elsewhere, in a desert on Earth, one of the discarded limiter rings lies in a crater as Shadow, who is still alive, steps closer and reclaims it from the sand and moves on, starting a new life.